Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is story about what if Naruto hates Konoha and leaves forever. Highschool DxD, Part 1. Before I start, please do support for more amazing content and comments for Part 2. Do consider to subscribe my channel and share my video to your friends and check out the description as well. Let's start the video. Akino sighed as she finished filing the receipts for her department. It was the same thing she did every day, but she was still bored. The monotony of her office job was getting to her, and it was so boring. She wanted to find a stray devil to torture, to revel in its shrieks of pain as it finally gave up hope and died, to help her relax and relieve some stress. Perhaps my darling husband could give me a massage at home tonight, she thought with a mild blush. Decades have passed since the Chaos Brigade was defeated, but she didn't age due to her devil nature. After everything had simmered down in the supernatural world, she had gotten a job as a manager in the Tokyo branch of one of the many businesses the Gremory family had in Japan, called Crimson Ruin Princess Inc., or CRP for short, extremely unique name thought out by Rias. Since she was Rias' queen, she obviously didn't need any interview process, and as she already did secretarial work for Rias, she fit right into her role at CRP. The company itself dabbled into many fields, and she oversaw the management of the various ventures on paper. She could have very well become the CEO of the Japan subsidiary, but she didn't want the hassle and the added responsibility. The job also paid very well, almost as much as some businessmen would make. When she was released from her service to Rias and got married afterwards, she wanted to settle down and try her hand at a day job. She was excited to forge a new path for herself and seize the day, and Ayoa, I can't do this stupid job anymore. She hadn't thought that it would be so boring. Now she was trapped in her dead-end job and she couldn't quit because her idiot, lovable husband convinced her by lecturing her about taking responsibility and finishing what you started and whatnot. He didn't force her to keep working, but his arguments were so damn logical that she was actually convinced. It wasn't fair that he had fun running his cute little ramen stand while she was stuck in this dump. Even the storage room for filing papers looked like the personification of plain. Cream-colored walls, aluminum cabinets stacked on top of each other, and a plastic desk with a wheelie chair. The ceilings had cracks in it, there was the signature water cooler in a corner, and for a second she thought she saw a rat sleeping in the corner. Even the mold looked like it was stressed from meeting a deadline. Even the rats are bored, sigh. And she couldn't just go on electrocuting her coworkers for kicks, however much she might despise them. Seriously, how could grown men and women act like lost puppies in her very presence? Didn't they understand that she was a married woman? Hell, half of them were married themselves, for God's sake. She always turned them down, but they just kept coming back like flies. At least she was done for the day, now she could go home and relax. She had just exited the storage room, and was packing up to head home for the day. She smiled at the interns, who promptly started swooning and blushing madly. She couldn't blame them, she reminded herself. Many men and women alike found her incredibly alluring, dressed in a black blazer, white shirt, black pencil skirt, thigh-length stockings and black heels. Her long midnight black hair was tied in a ponytail with her signature orange ribbon, but now it had a spiral pattern embroidered in the material. It also didn't help that she teased all her coworkers at every possible opportunity. Hey, just because she was married didn't mean her personality should change. In fact, her husband didn't mind at all, because he is a total sweetheart like that, and told her to just be herself. Akino-sama, marry me. UWA, it's Akino-sama. She's so pretty. Such comments of worship were commonplace for her ever since her school days. Imbeciles, the lot of them. As if I would go for any of these wimps. One teensy shock and they'd all be frothing at the mouth, was her general reaction to such people. She was married after all. But even if she weren't, she wouldn't give these people the time of day. Wherever she went, be it her university or her job, these hopeless cronies always showed up. I can't wait to get home and eat whatever delicious food he's made for me, she thought, licking her lips in anticipation. Just the thought of her husband's homemade cooking made her mouth water. Almost done, just 5 more minutes and she could teleport home to eat his scrumptious warm food, she thought. Why walk when you could literally bend space and travel in an instant? She never had any commuting problems due to her ability. She was broken out of her musing when her colleague, a man named Yamada, approached her. He was a moderately attractive man, she thought, and were she single, she might have led him on to relish his sad look when she brutally shot him down. Oh, that's a marvelous idea, but I'm not even going to pretend to cheat on him. This one was thankfully single himself, or she would pity his partner. That would be just like someone she knew very well. Even as he spoke, he was busy staring at her. Yamada was wearing what was quite possibly the only outfit that would make her day even more boring: a cream-colored shirt, checkered tie, corduroy trousers, and a suede jacket. His brown hair was slicked back, and she could see the first hints of baldness. This was a stressful job after all, for humans at least. "Oh Mao, who is this sitcom professor character you have dropped in front of me?" She was honestly taken aback by the sheer plain of his outfit. "Ano Akino-san?" Yamada began, blushing and fidgeting slightly. "Would you like to go out for drinks with me and some of the guys after the shift is over?" he asked, the sheer hope in his eyes making her inwardly smirk in amusement. His guys were random extras like himself, looking at her like puppies would their master. We really wanted to get to know our beautiful manager who does so much for us every day. Akino mentally rolled her eyes at the pathetic attempt at asking her out. Smiling beatifically, she replied, "Era Yamada-san, I do hope you aren't hitting on a married woman. My, what would my husband think if he saw you?" Of course her husband would not do anything harsh, except maybe put some itching powder in that suede monstrosity. Looking sheepish at being caught, Yamada tried to save his plummeting reputation by saying, "Ahahaha, let me be honest, Akino-san. Most of the guys think that you are out of that guy's league. None of us have even seen him. I mean, what could a ramen stand owner possibly give you? He doesn't deserve you, Akino-san." Throughout the idiot's diatribe, Akino's eyes grew progressively colder, and her smile became more forced. The temperature in the room started steadily dropping, and Yamada and his mooks could feel some kind of unseen pressure weighing down on their shoulders. Then the most surprising thing happened: Akino started to giggle. But this giggle was not her usual demure giggle which sent her fans into a haze. This sound was more like the cackling of the Shinigami, according to Yamada, at least. While Yamada and company were struggling to remain focused, Akino, however, was lost in her own thoughts. Akino's mind. Akino-sama, please stop, it hurts," Yamada shouted as he was electrocuted for the umpteenth time. His friends were already passed out in a corner courtesy of a nasty shock, but this peasant who dared insult her beloved would suffer for a long time. She stopped the steady stream of electricity, and Yamada slumped to the ground, nearly dead. He looked like he had seen much better days, and had so many bruises it looked like a big plum. "You know," she began, "normally, I would have turned you down, and we would have gone our separate ways. But then you made a really bad mistake," she said, giggling sadistically, as his eyes widened. "I'm so sorry, Akino-sama, I won't bother you again, please spare me," he wailed hopelessly, like the worm he was. She giggled again. She was really enjoying this. "Oh, how I missed this," she thought. Era, Yamada-san, your mistake wasn't asking me out, you know," she began silkily while lightning crackled at her fingertips. "Oh no, your mistake was when you spoke about my husband without knowing him." At this point her beautiful face was curled up in a vicious snarl as she shocked him yet another time. She was pissed now. "As if a worm like you could even compare to him, you piece of filth. You are but an ant in his presence," she spat. "You know nothing of the wonderful man he is, of what he's done for me, and you dare slander his name," she all but shouted, as the poor man recoiled in fear. He shrieked again as she shocked him once more. She was having so much fun. Real world. Akino was giggling madly while blushing up a storm. "Am I a Yandere now?" she idly mused. While this was going on, poor Yamada thought that this was a reaction she had to his offer. Emboldened by the response he received, he pressed on. "So, about what I asked," he ventured. The game plan was that he would escort Akino to a local restaurant to meet the guys, but the guys would mysteriously call and cancel, all of them would. Then it would be just him and Akino-san, and he could finally win her heart and convince her to leave that low-class fool of a ramen chef she called her husband. "Oh, it's all going nicely," he thought. How little he knew. Meanwhile, his words had snapped Akino out of her trance. She turned her focus on the sniveling dolt in front of her. Her frigid gaze made him feel like his soul was being torn apart. Slowly, while restraining her rage, the black-haired beauty asked, "Would you care to repeat that, Yamada-san?" She absolutely hissed through gritted teeth. Hi. I was asking. I'm afraid I'll have to decline, and please refrain from hitting on married women again, especially me, okay?" She interrupted him with a positively saccharine smile. "And Yamada-san, please don't say such things about my husband. He might not react kindly to you hitting on his wife and insulting him behind his back." Her smile grew larger, if it was possible. Him not reacting kindly would be an understatement, she thought. The last time such a thing happened was Fallen Angel hit on her when he was nearby. The Fallen was using the cliché "ditch this loser and have fun with me" bit. He would not take no for an answer and kept biting her. When she still refused, the crow tried to grab her hand. While she could have easily dealt with that crow herself, she didn't have to, as her husband took him into an alley and broke his wings as well as every bone in the idiot's body. When she came back to the real world, she found that Yamada had already scampered off. She didn't expect much from him anyway. Pushing unnecessary thoughts out of her mind, she went into her office and locked her door. Her office was much better than the storeroom, as she used magic to make it bigger from the inside, like a bastardized version of a raiding game dimension. The office was lined with purple wallpaper. It had black leather couches, a mahogany desk for her, and a Victorian-style chair. Her office was a beautiful and relaxing place, where she could get away from the boredom of the day. On the desk were many things which were important to her. There was her old orange ribbon, a photo of her circle, and various stationery. The most prominent article, however, was the picture frame in the middle of her desk, which showed her and a blond man making peace signs and smiling goofily at the camera. She smiled wistfully, and skirted her fingers over the glass, checking the door. On finding no one, she prepared her magic. Beneath her feet, an orange spiral mark appeared, which housed images of many animals at different regions of the spiral, ranging from a raccoon to an octopus hybrid. But the most prominent was the regal-looking nine-tailed fox at the center of the spiral. If she didn't know any better, she would have assumed it to be a yokai. It was a testament to her husband's prowess with seals, that instead of letters, the magic in the spell was conveyed by images. The Uzumaki clan crest. Her clan crest, she thought with pride. I'm coming home, and you better have food ready, Naruto-kun, she thought before she vanished in an orange flash. Naruto smiled as he delivered another bowl of piping hot ramen to his customers, a family of 4, who were more or less his regulars. The Nobi family were a cheerful bunch, always smiling, joking, and generally happy. They were also one of the first customers to grace his shop when he relocated to Tokyo, after mysteriously disappearing from his earlier home in Ko. He couldn't have people wondering how he still looked to be in his 20s, after decades of living there, now could he? The Nobis were a joy to be around. The father, Takashi, was a pretty nice guy, and loved his family a lot, which made Naruto respect the man. His wife, Mia, was a lot like Naruto's own wife, as she loved to tease and mess with people in general. Of course, she didn't enjoy torturing people in her spare time like Akino did, but it was a welcome change nonetheless. Seated between them were the couple's 2 daughters. They were named Rei and Mei, and they were identical twins. They were absolutely adorable and loved ramen almost as much as he himself did. Breaking out of his thoughts, he greeted them. Hi guys, how's it going? If you need anything else, tell me, okay? Mia smiled at him, while Takashi had already started stuffing his face with ramen, earning him a bonk on the head from his wife. Thank you, Naruto, we're all fine. But we'll probably have some sake, if you would? Sure, I'll bring some over right away. Thank you? She nodded. Girls, what do we say to Uncle Naruto? Thank you, Uncle Naru. 2 squeaky voices chirped, which made Naruto pat their heads, earning him pleasant hums from the kids. It's no problem, girls, just eat slowly, Kay? It's not going anywhere, you know, he said while chuckling, which made the twins glare at him, but they just looked like angry puppies. This idle conversation went until closing time, when the Nobis finally left. Naruto headed to the back to finish cleaning up so that he could go home and make dinner for himself and his wife. His wife had gotten a job with the Gremory business, a name he couldn't remember. It was a far cry from when he met her while she was still in school, and fighting in death matches for entertainment. Now, some may ask why she wasn't serving Rias, competing in raiding games and so on. It was fairly simple, in reality. Since long-term peace between the 3 factions was achieved, there was not as much of a need as before for devils to restore their numbers. This, along with various objections and outcries about the moral and ethical violations brought about by the evil peace system, led to a massive overhaul in how peerages worked. Ajuka Beelzebub, with the help of Azazel and Michael, came up with a new recruitment system in which free will was greatly emphasized and which could be used by members of any of the 3 factions to better integrate themselves and further strengthen the peace. The king had to ask the potential member before performing the resurrection, and it had to be done in a free and fair manner. If the king did anything with a malicious intent, the king, peace inside them would not permit the resurrection. So any trickery, coercion, or magic was out of the question, since the king, peace was bound to the soul of the devil. As long as the devil knew what they were doing, the peace wouldn't reincarnate anyone. Also, those who were revived after death were given 1 week's time to leave the peerage without any consequences, while keeping the second life. Devils were marked as strays only if they committed a crime against their king, or against society in general. Simply leaving the peerage wasn't a crime anymore. This new system was called the Inner Circle system. She was therefore in Ria's inner circle, as queen. The class system in the Devil Society also changed a lot. Many of the old elitist fossils on the council who still advocated purist supremacy were either killed in the war against the Cows Brigade, or replaced by more progressive, competent heirs. Designations like high or low class were more of a formality than any actual indication of ability or prestige. There was noticeably less stigma attached to being low class or reincarnated, and society as a whole was progressing. It was all to make sure another Riser incident or Nekishu incident did not occur again. After the war, she along with all those who played an important role in their victory were given promotions to high class. Hence she could now have her own peerage, while having a lesser responsibility towards Rias. Once the inner circle system became widespread, all existing pieces were converted to the newer system. Due to this, many of the devils who had been forcefully converted in one way or another left their masters, now simply called kings, and went their merry ways. This led to a stop in raiding games until their numbers were restored. Devils were no longer scouting for circle members to show off, and so the system of raiding games gradually became obsolete. Eventually Rias had given her entire circle a chance to forge their own paths from under her shadow, as she had wanted for herself for so long. And that's what she did. Snapping out of his thoughts, Naruto closed up the shop and prepared to Hiraishin home. Who needed fancy magic circles and runes when you could just vanish? As he flashed into his living room, he looked at his wedding photo on the wall, with him hugging Akino while the both of them were smiling at the camera. His gaze softened as he remembered how they met. Flashback, roughly 40 years ago, KUH Town. Naruto glared at the person laying in a heap at his feet. Violet Rinnegan pulsed menacingly, with 9 tomos circling hypnotically in them. He had half a mind to just kill the little shit, but he needed to know. He needed to know why these devils had been bothering him so much lately. Don't get him wrong, he always had 1 or 2 supernaturals bugging him every week. Even though he wasn't actively involved in their affairs, his latent power and aura subconsciously attracted other supernaturals to him like moths to a flame. Be it devils, or fallen angels, or even some yokai. Angels were by far the most preferable, as they had no ill intent towards him. He even had that lowly dragon approach him a time or 2 per month, to join her in helping restore her silence. He honestly did not understand why she could not just go somewhere else to sleep in the infinite abyss of the gap. And he certainly wasn't going to help her kill Great Red. The guy was his friend, after all. The Red Dragon's delinquent personality was a refreshing change to the more snobby and arrogant supernaturals he knew. The guy literally spent his time doing flips and stunts, so of course when Naruto came across him, he had declared that he was going to do better stunts than Red himself, and a rivalry had ensued. The both of them were buddies now. He had met the 2 dragons when he showed up in the dimensional gap, battered and broken, after a mishap in sealing Kagaya. The 2 beings had taken an interest in him, as he had the same power levels as them. This was the sole reason why they hadn't just killed him when he was injured and defenseless. When Naruto had finally settled down in Ko and opened his shop, these pests had started showing up. He mostly just beat them to a pulp and genjutsu'd away the memories with his eyes, but he was getting fed up now. He wanted to find out what their endgame was, and put a stop to it, so he could live in peace. Sighing in exasperation, he prepared to use one of the jutsu he really hated using. It was everything he had fought against, but in this case it was necessary. It helped that all he could sense from this devil was evil and malice. He placed his hand on the down man's forehead, and spoke in a low voice. Ninjendo. Naruto stilled momentarily as a rush of memories came into his head from the man's mind, and he finally got his answer. Cows Brigade. Rizvium Levon Lucifer. Trihexa. Rizvium Levon Lucifer was forming an organization, the main purpose of which was to invade the world using the evil dragons from other dimensions. For that goal, they sought to defeat Great Red, who protected the dimensional gap by reviving the legendary beast, 666, Trihexa. Granted, they weren't anywhere close to executing such plans. It would take them years yet, but it was still troublesome. Naruto was lucky that this devil was a member, or else he wondered how he would have gotten this information. This was a really stupid plan according to him, as so many things could go wrong in it. He would have to inform Red that there were many different factions gunning for him. Seriously, leave the poor guy alone, will ya? Why does everyone want to either kill or banish him for Kami's sake? Let him do his stunts in peace, damn it, he hasn't done anything to anyone. Shaking his head, he created a Kage Bunshin to inform Red about these happenings, and the clone left for the dimensional gap via Yamatsu Hirasaka. Normally, he would be done with it, and would have gone home after closing up the shop. However, this mook had made the mistake of trying to wreck the place, in hopes of luring him out. He had also insulted ramen. So Naruto ripped the man's soul out of his head and crushed it into oblivion. Sealing the corpse of the devil into a scroll and burning it via Amaterasu, he left to go in and finish cleaning up. He would go home and rest up for tomorrow. Just as he was about to go out and flip the sign, the bell attached to the door chimed, and in walked one of the most beautiful women he had ever seen. She was a young woman with very long black hair and violet eyes. Her hair was tied in a long ponytail, reaching all the way down to her legs with 2 strands sticking out from the top and sloping backward, with an orange ribbon keeping it in place. Like most of the girls at Konoha Academy, she wore the customary Konoha Academy girls' school uniform, along with black calf-length socks. Just as Naruto was about to snap out of his stupor and apologize for staring, she interrupted him. "Excuse me, but are you open?" she said in a silky voice, almost like it was gliding over his ears. She was smiling angelically at him, but it didn't take him more than one look to discern that her smile was horribly fake, much like his own back when he was a child. It made his interest in her rise even more. "Ah yes, I was just about to close, but I can make an exception for once, you know?" he said, hoping that he didn't come across as a flirt. He just wanted to know more about this woman, not necessarily in a romantic sense. There was something about her, something that drew him to her. She was like her mystery, and that smile certainly had some secrets behind it. He also sensed 2 conflicting energies from her. A devil-fallen hybrid, eh? I knew this girl was interesting. The girl let out a demure giggle, and smiled even wider. "Thank you, I was really hungry, and this is the only place that was open. Could I have your name?" "The name's Uzumaki Naruto, and don't you forget it, you know," Naruto replied, grinning. "And what about you, miss?" "Yofufu, my name is Himejima Akino, it's nice to meet you, Naruto-san." "Likewise, Akino-san, please have a seat. What can I get ya?" he asked, as the girl took a seat on one of the stools. Akino seemed to be deep in thought as she looked over the menu. Ultimately, she decided on miso ramen, and Naruto went inside to prepare the food. While she waited, she thought over the past few moments. The blonde looked to be about her age, and he had a cute, kind of feral look to him, with those whisker marks of his. His blue eyes were also the most unique pair of eyes she'd seen in quite some time. She idly wondered why he was working and not attending school, but felt like it wasn't her place to ask. One thing was for sure though, she had taken an interest in the blonde. After about 5 minutes, Naruto came back with the order, and set it down in front of her. Akino looked like she was about to drool any second from the delicious smell of the ramen. Slowly, she dug in and brought the first bite to her dainty lips. As she ate the initial morsel, her eyes widened in surprise. She had never eaten such fabulous food before. Every ingredient was in perfect harmony, and no one taste overpowered any of the others. She was lost in her own world as she ate, and she didn't even remember finishing the whole bowl. Looking up from her food-induced daze, the ravenette blushed slightly in embarrassment as she caught Naruto looking at her with amusement in her eyes. She had gotten too engrossed in her meal to worry about trivial things like eating speed or manners. Not one to give someone else the last laugh, she tried to embarrass him in retaliation for her own situation. Era Naruto-san, you're looking at me so intensely." She gasped. "What is a girl to think? Are you interested in me?" she purred, batting her eyelashes. It had to work, she reasoned. Any normal man would have gotten the double entendre and started to blush or sputter in embarrassment. Any normal man, she thought, would be unable to resist her charms. How wrong she was. "Huh?" She blinked. Once. Twice. She looked at the chef, and the sheer clueless expression of his, accompanied by a cute head tilt, convinced her that he'd understood not a word of what she'd said. He was honestly confused, and she didn't know what to think when this man didn't swoon in her presence or stare at her like an idiot. Her mind offered up the elegant retort of, "Yue?" Ah, the nerve of this man. He'd managed to not only embarrass her twice, but had done so without doing anything himself. This won't stand, she decided. She was the embarrasser, not the embarrassed. She would find some way to tease him, to make him blush, if it's the last thing she did. She would come back, and she would keep coming back until she achieved her goal. It was the only reason she would even come back to a place like this, she thought half-heartedly. Just to get one over the cute blonde, nothing else. Absolutely nothing to do with the cute blonde whatsoever. It helped that the ramen was delicious, though. Flashback end. It was when Naruto was finishing dinner that he saw the signature flash of orange created by the Uzumaki teleportation circle. He had made the runes from scratch using this world's magic, and it worked wonderfully. Anyone from Naruto's immediate family or anyone he inducted into their clan could use the seal to teleport to a place of their choice, much like all other clan seals. But this one was orange. And it was marvelous. Logistics aside, there was currently just one person in his family capable of using magic, and that meant only one thing. Akino-chan is home. Creating a clone to finish up with the food, Naruto went to the living room, just in time to see his wife appear out of thin air. She still looked as beautiful as the day they met, and the office attire only added to her appeal. Just as she finished materializing, Naruto promptly glommed her. Akino-chan. Welcome home, I missed you. He shot off, obviously delighted to see her. How was your day? Did you eat properly? Are you hungry? Did you? Akino sighed fondly as her husband continued to rattle on with his mundane questions. While many other women would hate when their husbands fussed over them, she loved it quite a bit. Those idiot floozies didn't know what they were missing. A caring husband who loves you unconditionally, is really handsome, and cooks for you. She'd be stupid to get annoyed at him for that. Plus, his mother hen personality was very charming, in her opinion. Still, she was tired due to a long day at work in Yamada, and as much as she loved her husband, she needed silence right now. She just wanted to relax and eat whatever tasty dinner he had cooked for them. Naruto was cut off when Akino placed a finger to his lips, halting his inquiries. His cheeks tinged pink at being caught rambling again, and his embarrassment was only amplified after seeing that smug look on her face. She knew exactly what she was doing, the minx. It wasn't his fault. He couldn't help but fuss over her when she came back looking all tired like that. What kind of husband would he be if he failed to identify when his wife was stressed? Naruto knew she didn't mind, but Akino loved to tease him. Well, he would see how she liked it when he teased her in return. Naruto flinched back from her and looked at her as if she'd slapped him. Mustering the most hurt expression he could manage, he looked at his wife, going incredibly still. His face was void of emotion, and the only way Akino could tell that his feelings were hurt was from his eyes, which displayed a profound sorrow. "Oh Naruto, you fabulous actor you!" he cackled, praising himself inwardly. Seeing as his message hadn't entirely gone across, Naruto decided to up his game. Slumping his shoulders in defeat, his face remained blank as he let out a long-suffering sigh. He looked away from Akino, and began in a monotone voice. "I'm sorry for being so overbearing, Akino." He got out, using a small amount of Suigun chakra for added tears. "I will try to tone it down from now on. You probably don't like me being so clingy." He continued, looking worse than a kicked puppy. "Aha!" He cheered mentally when he saw Akino's eyes widening in shock. She must be thinking that he misunderstood her actions, he mused. She must be thinking that she had hurt him. Not one to quit while he was ahead, Naruto pressed on. Turning away from her, he started dragging his feet towards the kitchen, maintaining his beaten posture. "A clone will bring you dinner, Akino," he said, purposely dropping the chan for added effect. "I'll just be inside for a while." He turned to her and gave her a sad smile. "I'll try to be better in the future." All throughout his monologue, Akino was getting more and more distraught. She had grabbed the handle of the couch, and was staring at him with a wide, shocked gaze. Seeing as he had teased her enough, Naruto decided to end the joke. He could never bear seeing such despair on his wife's face, prank be damned. But before he could get a word in, Akino blitzed him and crashed into his chest, hugging him tightly. Naruto instinctively wrapped his arms around her, and he realized that she was shivering, no, trembling. Crap. Now I've gone and hurt her, he thought. He sometimes took his pranks too far and didn't know when to stop. Just as he was about to console his clearly distraught wife, she began speaking. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun, I didn't mean to imply that I didn't like it," she declared, looking up at him with big watery eyes. "I always love it when you fuss over me and take care of me." She had tears rolling down her cheeks now. "I shouldn't take your love for granted." Akino was sobbing by now, each hiccup feeling like a sucker punch to Naruto's heart. She hugged him tightly and wailed some more. "I'm so sorry, Naruto-kun, I'm a terrible wife. Please forgive me, I'm the worst. I'm horrible, selfish and—" Naruto interrupted her by hugging her back fiercely, in a bid to comfort her in her frazzled state. He really was the worst, wasn't he? He made his lovely wife cry, and for what? A prank? Unacceptable. He was Naruto Uzumaki, he lived for his precious people, and he just made his most precious person break down and cry. He needed to fix this, and fast. He would apologize to Akino, and then he would beg and grovel until she forgave him. No prank war was worth his wife's happiness. So Naruto broke their embrace and cupped her face in his hands tenderly. He was about to wipe her tears and comfort her, only to find her smirking. Why was Akino smirking? Wasn't she crying a minute ago? Naruto decided to recap the past few minutes. His wife had returned home after a long day at work, and she'd embarrassed him by cutting off his rambling. Then he had decided to tease her as payback. Seeing the gears turn in her husband's head, Akino let out a demure giggle. He was so cute when he tilted his head and acted all intelligent. Era Naruto-kun, did you think that I would let your teasing slide? She asked, giving him an amused glance. We have been married for decades, husband. I know all your tells by now. She saw his eyes widen in realization, making her giggle even more. He pouted in anger. But he just looked adorable. My wife is so mean to me, it makes me think you don't want the Katsudan I made. Naruto put a finger under his chin, a mirthful gleam in his eye. The jab seemed to work, seeing as the teasing expression on Akino's face was gone. She was staring far off into space, and her eyes were glazed over. Her lips were slightly parted, and a little bit of drool was waking through. Naruto smirked when he saw his wife's state. She always did love his cooking. Whenever his delicious meals were even mentioned, she lost all semblance of her Yamato Nadeshiko personality. It was fun and downright adorable to see the drastic change in Akino's nature. It was how they met in the first place, after all. Katsudan with sake. Akino trailed off, still imagining the meal she would be having. Suddenly, the meaning of his previous words struck her. Her eyes snapped towards Naruto, and she was in front of him in a flash. Fine, dear husband, you win this time. Now can we please eat? She said with a fire in her eyes. Puffing out his chest in pride at winning their tiny prank war, Naruto ruffled his wife's hair, earning an indignant pout from her. Akino-chan, go and freshen up, okay? I'll have dinner set up by then. Seeing her enter their room to do just that, Naruto went about setting the table. It was almost an automatic task by now, which gave him the time to reminisce. He never would have thought that he would find such a loving wife. With his less than ideal childhood in his homeworld, he had developed a warped definition of love. He did not understand the difference between romantic love and familial love, never having experienced either of the two. Towards the end of the Fourth Shinobi War, a mishap in sealing Kaguya had made him immortal. He had but an hour to grasp the concept, and his initial conclusions had been unsettling at best. If he was to be immortal, anyone he held precious would die before his very eyes. It would take years or even decades, but they would pass all the same. And he would be forced to watch them slip by. He would be all alone, as even Kurama had been taken from him. Then, due to Kaguya's crazy jutsu, he got flung into a dimension where immortals were a dime a dozen. Talk about twisted luck. Seeing as he had no qualifications and or skills, he had opened up a ramen shop after persuading the right people for permits and papers, of course. It was there that he met the woman who would go on to become his wife in the future. After their initial meeting, she came to the shop quite often, trying to embarrass him or get a rise out of him. Seeing as he was as dense as a brick back then, she failed spectacularly. Her interest in him evolved with time, and it didn't take her long to realize his issues. He had told her about his past after the first year, and she had done the same. Needless to say, she was not amused when told about his childhood. Even more so about his skewed concept of love, but that was easily fixed. She had literally zapped the concept of love into his head. They started dating shortly after and got engaged and married in quick succession. Both were headstrong individuals after all, and they weren't the sort to beat around the bush. He was snapped out of his musings when Akino came out in her violet pajamas, an angelic smile on her beautiful face. He couldn't help but stare at her beauty. Even after being married for so long, he was still mesmerized by her radiance. He could just gaze at her for hours on end without rest. Not that she minded, of course. She liked to be admired and appreciated by her loving husband. Akino caught him staring at her and smirked mentally. Now was the time to strike, to get him back for her earlier defeat. She put a hand on her cheek and tilted her head, fluttered her eyelashes at him, and asked in a sweet voice. Yofufu Anada, you like what you see? She inquired with a purr. Close your mouth, dear, you'll catch flies. Now she would wait for his reaction. She waited for him to flush in embarrassment, to sputter out nonsense, and try to form coherent sentences. But alas, Naruto lived up to his title and did something unpredictable. He closed the distance between them with boundless love in his eyes, gently embraced Akino and kissed her forehead. Caught off guard by this sudden change in events, Akino couldn't speak, but Naruto did. You're so adorable, Akino-chan. I really am the luckiest idiot in the world to have you as my wife. When she heard his words, Akino gained a steady blush on her cheeks. Steam was about to erupt from her ears. That's how embarrassed she was. The last straw was when Naruto tucked her head under his chin, which prompted her to nuzzle her face into his shoulder. It's not fair, she lamented inwardly. I'm supposed to be the teaser here, and then he goes and says something like that. She didn't show it, but Akino felt extremely giddy from their earlier exchange. It was always like this with them, she mused. Akino would try to tease him and get a reaction out of him, and he would say the sweetest and most loving things which would shut down her brain and make her blush like a fangirl. She never could understand how he got such a reaction out of her, but she didn't care. For Naruto and only for him, she could tolerate being the one embarrassed. If that was the price of hearing his lovely compliments, she didn't mind. They stayed in their position for some time. Akino recalled all that this blonde buffoon had done for her. He had fed her countless times and saved her life even more times. He helped her reconcile with her father, and even brought forth her mother's soul via the King of Hell so that she could get some closure. But most importantly, he had given her his unconditional love. Due to her traumatic childhood, she had an immense hatred for fallen angels. When they told each other their pasts, he had held her until she recounted her tale, and comforted her while she sobbed. Then he had asked to see her wings. She had been apprehensive at first, to show her darkest secret, the part of her she hated most, to another. But she trusted Naruto, and so, she did. She unfurled her wings and waited with bated breath. Waited for him to call her wings ugly, or tainted, or some such. He called them fluffy, tactless as he was. Akino felt relieved all the same. They got married shortly after that, much to her delight. She looked at her husband, who was now setting the table while she waited. He had spent his whole life fighting, and when he came to their world, he just wanted to relax. Hence he had dabbled into cooking, for which she was ever thankful. Akino was just as lucky to have found him as he was. In the world full of arrogant and snobbish supernaturals, she had found one of the few people who were unflinchingly loyal, devoted, and kind. Even after 40 years, he had eyes only for her, loved only her. She always enjoyed making his fangirls jealous, whenever they went out together. Akino-chan, food is ready. Nodding in happiness, she dug into her meal, along with him. The food was delicious as always, with the perfect sweet sake paired with it. She then noticed her husband holding out a spoonful of food towards her, his intent clear. Say Akino-chan, Naruto said, grinning at her. Anada, I am not a kid anymore, she replied while rolling her eyes, smiling softly. I know that, dear, but can a husband spoil his wife from time to time? You always spoil me, Naruto-kun. Naruto's grin grew even wider, his eyes twinkling with love, and you deserve nothing less. Instead of getting embarrassed again, Akino quickly ate the offered food and looked away, a small tinge of pink on her face. Just as she was about to recover and get a jab in. My wife is so cute, Naruto wailed dramatically while glomping her sideways. And just like that, the blush was back. Akino didn't know why she was surprised. Naruto was an incredibly expressive person. For someone who was starved of affection, he had found someone to love, someone who loved him back just as much. And he spared no expense pampering her and showering her with his love and care. She wouldn't trade it for the world. Deciding to change the subject, Naruto asked, So tell me about your day, were you still bored? Akino glared at him in anger. And whose fault is that, mister? She jabbed a finger at him accusingly. You're the one who convinced me about responsibilities and whatnot. She huffed. Not breaking their side hug, Naruto replied. Because you had a contract, Akino-chan, and you know it. You can't just use magic to get out of your problems, that's a shortcut. You know how I feel about those. He admonished, poking her nose. Besides, you only have 1 month left anyway, then we can work at the shop together. He exclaimed with his usual enthusiasm. Sighing in resignation, Akino nodded. There was no winning with him when it came to work ethic. Yamato-baka approached me today, she began, earning an interested look from her husband. He was spouting bullshit about how you don't deserve me and that I should date him instead. She spat with a disgusted look. Instantly, Naruto's expression changed from interested to worried. Is he okay? Akino twitched. What kind of a question is that, Anada? Shouldn't you be asking him if I'm okay? No, I asked correctly, came the reply. Is he alive with his mind and body intact? Akino gasped. How can you imply something like that, husband dear? She looked hurt. Upon receiving the flattest deadpan ever, she sighed and relented. He's fine, I wanted to torture him but didn't. Could have broken a bone or two, though. The last part was muttered, but he heard her all the same. That's my girl, I'm proud of you. Naruto beamed. We should never care what others think about us. I know I never did. Akino wholeheartedly agreed. The rest of the meal went by without a hitch, with the couple making idle conversation and just enjoying each other's presence. As night fell, Naruto and Akino eventually retired to their bedroom. They cuddled up to each other and thought the same thing before being claimed by slumber. I love you, and I can't wait to spend the rest of my life with you. Hokage-sama. A voice called out, stern but soft at the same time. Zzzzzzzzzzz. Hokage-sama, this is most improper. The voice called out again, and a woman stepped into the office. She looked to be in her early 20s, with waist-length silver hair and a ponytail. Her attire consisted of formal office wear, a white shirt, and a black pencil skirt. Her beauty had an otherworldly, ethereal quality to it, as if she were some form of divinity. This was Graphia Uzumaki, formerly Lucifuge, the wife and personal secretary of Naruto Uzumaki, the 7th Hokage of Konoha. She wanted to become his maid instead but had relented after a red-faced, sputtering refusal by her husband. Her husband, who was currently sleeping on the job. Soft silver eyes gazed lovingly at the sleeping man, taking in his appearance. A tall and well-built figure, with short blonde hair, and if he weren't sleeping, one could see the most beautiful azure eyes sparkling with amusement. At least to her anyway. Zzzzzzzzz. Her delicate silver eyebrows twitched in annoyance as Naruto refused to wake up. Deciding to try a different approach, she walked across the room to where he was sleeping. As she neared him, Graphia could see the piles of paperwork on his desk. Even if Naruto had dozens of clones working on paperwork, the heap still miraculously replenished itself. Despite all her experience as a secretary, Graphia was still at a loss regarding this problem. She reached Naruto, who showed no indication of being aware of her presence. Was this really the Hokage, the strongest shinobi in the world? Weren't shinobi supposed to be cognizant of their surroundings at all times? With how deeply her husband slept, he would be an easy target for any assassins foolish enough to challenge him. Arriving next to the sleeping blonde, Graphia leaned down and whispered in his ear. Naruto-kun, don't you want the ramen I made? I made it just for you. She all but purred, hoping for a reaction. Alright, I'm up. Where's the ramen? The result was instantaneous. Naruto instantly awoke and jumped upright, narrowly missing Graphia in the process. He then looked around, aware of the environment for the first time after waking. His gaze landed on Graphia, and he processed what had been said. Then, his eyes widened, and he let out a meek whimper. There's no ramen? No, Hokage-sama. I needed to wake you up somehow, Graphia said, back in her stoic persona. However adorable he might look with that teary-eyed pout, she had to remain professional. How could you do this to me, Fie-chan? Naruto wailed pathetically, you know how much I love ramen, yet you still tricked me. Have you no shame at it, Tatada? His rant was cut off in between when Graphia harshly pinched his cheek. Please act like a man of your status should, Hokage-sama. She admonished him sternly. For once, I agree with your wife, Naruto. Kurama grumbled from within, your juvenile actions reflect poorly on me, as you are my host. Even if the fox was used to this daily stupidity, it didn't mean he had to like it. Oh. Okay, Fie-chan. Naruto extricated himself from his wife's hold, but then Mock glared at her. And how many times have I told you? Call me Naruto. I hate honorifics. You're my wife, you know? Such crass language would be improper coming from one of my station, Hokage-sama. Naruto grumbled incoherently as he set about doing some paperwork. This was always a point of argument among them, one they could never agree upon. Naruto abhorred any titles given to him, and thought that his wife, at least, should call him by his name. He preferred it that way, honestly. But Graphia would spout some drivel about decorum and discipline that went way over his head. Naruto was stubborn, but Graphia was even more so. But then Naruto got an idea. What dash? Graphia gave an uncharacteristic squeak as she was picked up from her position and placed in her husband's lap. Before she could admonish him for his lack of discipline, Naruto placed his head in the crook of her neck and wrapped his arms around her waist from behind. He then proceeded to do his paperwork, as if nothing was wrong. Hokage-sama, what is the meaning of this? Graphia asked, blushing slightly. Naruto always managed to fluster her with his spontaneous displays of affection. Whatever do you mean? Naruto asked while signing some documents. You know what I mean, Hokage-sama. She narrowed her eyes at him. She was struggling to maintain her work persona, but her husband was so warm that it was proving to be difficult. She had already relaxed and was cuddling up to Naruto. Naruto looked down at his wife, who was glaring at him with her soft silver eyes. Over the years, Naruto had realized that Graphia didn't like to make their relationship known in public. But that didn't mean Naruto couldn't show his wife some love, did it? I concentrate easily when you're cuddled up to me, FIA-chan. Naruto gave her a cheeky grin. Look, I already signed 6 documents. He gestured excitedly at the papers. Hokage-sama, what if someone walks in? Grafia reasoned, even your ANBU are watching. Such behavior is unbefitting of the Hokage. However, she made no effort to get out of his hold. Naruto wasn't buying it. There's some other reason, isn't there? He lightly pecked her cheek. You can tell me, dear. If it's really bothering you, I'll release you. His thoughtful reply made things even more complicated for the devil. On the one hand, she was the secretary of the Hokage. She was currently in office hours and had to maintain professionalism. On the other hand, Grafia was, first and foremost, his wife. She was allowed to be affectionate to him, although the environment could be better. And it did not help in the slightest how cuddly her beloved was. Not that she'd ever tell him, she had an image to maintain. After about 2 minutes of not moving, Grafia gently shook her head. It's embarrassing, and I have no desire to let the ANBU or any client intrude on a personal moment. Naruto just hugged his wife tighter, making her wiggle slightly. Ah, that's so cute. That's just Grafia speak for I'm shy. He rubbed his cheek against her. As for the ANBU, I don't care. They don't dictate how I show love to my wife. Naruto finished, grinning madly. He could practically feel an embarrassed Konohamaru steaming in the corner of the room. Deciding that he'd teased his wife enough, Naruto picked her up again and put her on her feet gently, making her glare at him slightly. She straightened her uniform and gave a small smile, which went unnoticed by him. FIA-chan, let's go somewhere fun. Grafia sighed in exasperation. Naruto really had the attention span of a sparrow. He was that hyperactive. Hokage-sama, stop procrastinating, and finish your paperwork. But it's so boring. Hokage-sama, do you want to eat boiled broccoli for dinner tonight? Kage-bunshin. Instantly, a dozen clones of Naruto appeared and set about doing paperwork at a frantic pace. Grafia twitched again. This was what made him do his work. Not a sense of duty, not protocol, but broccoli? Naruto had an irrational hatred for vegetables, especially broccoli. Exactly how much did Naruto, a person almost incapable of hate broccoli? Enough to make his paperwork clones use senjutsu. Every one of them, including the original, was somehow wearing glasses. Naruto didn't even need glasses. They were warily glancing at Grafia from time to time, hoping that she would rescind her threat. She would not. Hokage-sama. Naruto. Grafia rolled her eyes at her husband. The most powerful shinobi in the world, respected by the entire realm, acted like such a child in her presence. She decided to try a new method, knowing that it would work. It was a cheat she used whenever she needed him to get to work. Dana-sama? Yue? Naruto choked on his spit and looked at his wife, with a heavy blush on his cheeks. Even though he was the one who was teasing her, she still had one weapon. Whenever she called him things like Dana-sama or beloved, he would get extremely flustered. Naruto didn't know why he had this weakness, but he did. He whipped. Kurama jeered, disgraceful. Shut up, furball. We'll see what happens when you get married. What the dash? Naruto cut off Kurama as he tried to get his blush under control. Why yes, FIA-chan? He asked with a slight stutter. Damn that weakness for cute names. I have you now, Grafia thought, smirking inwardly as she prepared her final weapon. One that would work without fail. She almost felt bad for using this tactic, but it was for Naruto's own good. Grafia fluttered her eyelashes at Naruto, looking to the ground, and gaining a fake blush on her cheeks. For the finishing touches, she crossed her arms around her back and whispered in a timid voice. Well, won't you do the work, Dana-sama? She shyly said, for me? Alarm bells were ringing in Naruto's head by this point. What was this? His wife never acted like this. This shy and cutesy side was a complete contrast to the normal Grafia. Aha! She was tricking him, the minx. She was trying to get him to do the blasted paperwork. He would not relent, he would stand firm. He would. Ah! Too much mo. Critical hit. One look at his wife caused all his thoughts of rebellion to bleed out of him. There was no escape now. Naruto had been ensnared by the puppy dog eyes that his wife was looking at him with. You, Naruto muttered helplessly as he deflated, and set about doing his work. You can be really mean at times, you know? Did you say something, beloved? Gao nothing, FIA-chan. Naruto mumbled with red cheeks. She sure didn't hesitate to use her cuteness at every turn for someone who wanted their relationship to remain private. His heart couldn't take the strain, damn it. But he was still the luckiest man in the world to be married to her. Naruto zoned out instantly as he thought about how he met his wife. Not that he needed a reason to zone out. It was about 10 years ago when Kakashi-sensei was the Hokage. Naruto had been meditating in a clearing to practice his senjutsu. He had sensed a different type of energy signature appear in his senses and had gone to explore it. Flashback, 10 years ago Konoha. As he neared the site, Naruto began to see the signs of a massive explosion. Going on guard, he made his way to the epicenter of the crash. In a huge crater there was the unconscious form of a woman, bleeding severely from various cuts and wounds. She looked like she had been through hell, a fact which Naruto didn't know was true. Naruto had always been an impulsive shinobi, but his experiences in the war had taught him a few tricks. He quickly activated his negative emotion sensing to look for a trap and found none. He went into his bijou cloak and sped back to Konoha Hospital, where Sakura was. Since Tsunade had left on her journey, Sakura was the only medic he could trust. He carried the woman into Sakura's office, where she was thankfully alone. He didn't bother knocking, as he never had before. "Sakura-chan, emergency," he said hurriedly, making her look at him. On seeing the situation, her eyes widened. Sakura knew Naruto, probably better than anyone bar Sasuke. She knew that Naruto was a very kind and caring man, someone who would never hurt a woman anyone, really intentionally. So when Naruto showed up with a bleeding woman in his arms claiming an emergency, she immediately moved them to a room and checked up on the woman. Sakura most certainly did not hit Naruto over the head for supposedly being a pervert. Seriously, who would hit Naruto in such a delicate situation? She used to hit him when he was an idiot, back when she herself was far from a model kunoichi. Hitting him right now would be like criticizing him for helping a woman in need. She wasn't that shallow, damn it. She was a medic. It would mean breaking dozens of rules. "Naruto, lay her down here. I'll check her over." Naruto did so and immediately started hounding Sakura for answers. "What happened to her, Sakura-chan? Is she going to be okay? What can I do to help?" "What?" "Naruto." Sakura cut him off sternly. "Stop talking and let me concentrate for a second." With Naruto silent, Sakura started her diagnostic check on the woman. Sakura had to admit, she was already very jealous of this mystery woman. This lady was several times more beautiful than she was, much to her ire. When Naruto had explained the situation, Sakura had started looking for blunt force trauma, cuts, and the like. Glowing green palms moved over the mysterious woman's body as Sakura got a read on her condition. There were no life-threatening injuries, just some fractures and cuts. She would live, but there was one glaring problem. This woman had no chakra. Not a drop, which puzzled the medic. Every living being had chakra. It was as necessary to them as blood. This woman was an anomaly, as she had another energy signature in her body. "Naruto, go get the Hokage. He needs to see this." "What? What happened, Sakura-chan? Is she going to be okay?" "Yes, Naruto, she's going to be just fine," she said, making Naruto cheer, "but you need to get sensei, and I need to dress her wounds." Then Sakura gained a teasing glint to her eyes. "Unless you want to watch me change her clothes?" "My, Naruto, how bold of you!" she gasped. "No thanks, bye." Naruto had already dashed out of the room with a red face. Sakura chuckled softly to herself. He really was like the younger brother she never had. About 10 minutes later, Naruto returned, dragging a disheveled Kakashi in tow. "I'm telling you, sensei, this is important, believe it!" Ma, Naruto, what's the rush? I was taking a nap." "Look!" Kakashi looked, and his expression changed in an instant. He scanned the room, and his eyes landed on the unconscious woman. He looked at Naruto, who was bouncing in anticipation, and Sakura was waiting for a reaction. "Explain." After being informed of the problem by Sakura, Kakashi mulled over the information. He closed his eyes and thought as he processed the happenings. Then, he turned to Naruto. "Good job, my cute student." Kakashi gave him a thumbs up. "You've found yourself a real beauty here. Jiraiya-sama would be proud of you," he said, wiping a fake tear from his eye. "I know I am." "Sensei, be serious." Sakura snapped at him. "What do we do about this woman?" Well, ordinarily, the protocol would be to send her to the labs for testing." Kakashi interrupted Naruto's indignant shout with a look. "But it looks like Naruto has gotten attached to the young woman. So we'll wait for her to wake up." Naruto's dense inquiries were ignored as they waited, talking about their lives and catching up. They were all so busy that such moments of respite were rare. Team 7 intended to make full use of this opportunity. About 20 minutes later, the woman woke up with a gasp. Before any of the shinobi could address her, she frantically looked around and shouted, "Euclid!" Sakura went towards the woman, but the patient got into a combat stance after seeing the medic approach. Sakura raised her hands in a non-threatening gesture as she pointed to the bandages on the woman. The woman slightly let her guard down and verified that she had indeed been helped by these people. "Where am I?" "You're in Konoha, in the land of fire," Kakashi said. "What's your name, miss?" The woman seemed to contemplate the question and eventually answered, "Graphia. Graphia Lucifuge." That's a strange name. Where are you from?" Sakura interrupted. "And can you explain why you don't have chakra?" Seeing the woman tense up again, Naruto decided it was time to step in. His teammate and sensei were interrogating her as if she were a prisoner, barraging her with questions immediately after awakening to catch her off guard, and that didn't sit right with him. Naruto released some of his warm, comfortable chakra, instantly cutting through the tense situation. Naruto stepped ahead of his comrades and sat next to Graphia. "Kakashi-sensei, let me speak to her." He gave them a pleading look. "Hiya, miss. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. How are ya?" He grinned at her, hoping to loosen some of her cautiousness. He was never one for interrogation tactics and mind games. Naruto preferred to just talk and make friends with people. Naruto's approach seemed to have worked, as Graphia scooted a bit closer to him. She usually would never commit such a foolish mistake, but Graphia was out of her element here. She was fighting against the anti-Satan faction alongside her brother when a freak spell had knocked her out. She had then woken up in a strange land, where she could not sense a single devil. The people who helped her used chakra instead and were treating her as a prisoner. She was no stranger to such techniques, after all. She knew not their power, nor their abilities or numbers. She needed to play it safe. So when the blonde boy told the others to stop questioning her, she felt thankful to him. He had a certain presence about him, something that was making her trust him. He was just so pure and bright, like the sun. In an unfamiliar realm with her magic reserves depleted, Graphia latched on to the first person she thought she could trust. Graphia hoped that he wouldn't betray her, as she would be helpless to stop him. She wished she could find a way home to her brother and her family. Yendi. From that day onwards, Graphia would only talk to Naruto, no one else. They had gotten the full story from her, and Naruto had promised to try his best to help her. He had learned from previous experiences and promised things solely in his control, like trying his best. He would not let himself suffer such pain anymore. They had discovered, much to Graphia's sadness, that returning home was impossible for her. The toads also corroborated this theory, making the woman almost lose hope. It was Naruto who convinced her that she could create new bonds here, that she could find new precious people in this world, and Naruto would help her. Since then, Graphia had found that he was one of the few remaining members of the Uzumaki clan and the de facto heir. She felt as if she owed her life to Naruto, and hence had pledged service to him. Naruto had firmly refused, stating that he did not want a servant of any kind. He just asked her to find her own path, nothing more. The next few years were the best years of Naruto's life, as he had found someone to spend the rest of his life with. "Hokage-sama," Graphia scolded, "you zoned out again." "Huh, what?" Naruto said, snapping out of his thoughts. Sorry, I was just thinking about how we met, you know?" He gave a soft smile, "and how lucky I was to have met you." Naruto looked at her lovingly. Stop trying to distract me, husband." Graphia cursed herself for stuttering, but she could tell that Naruto was honest in his words. He always was, and that was what made her feel giddy. "Yes. You called me husband." Naruto cheered, happy to get one over his wife. "Hokage-sama, do you want to become an ice sculpture?" Graphia whispered, trying to quash her blush. She was getting impatient, and was flaring her ice magic. The temperature of the room lowered slightly, making chills go up the A and Bu's spines. Naruto paled at the thought, and created more clones to divide the work. The rest of the hour went without incident, mostly because Naruto wanted to get out of the monotonous office. The second he finished signing his last document, he went to his wife. "There, I'm done. Can we please go on a date now?" he pleaded while giving Graphia his version of the puppy dog eyes. Graphia didn't even need to think about it. His work was over, the documents were signed, and their last date was over 2 days ago. "Of course, dear. Lead the way." She even gave him a small smile, now that she was off the clock. That was all the motivation he needed, as Naruto quickly embraced his wife and used her ration to teleport home. The nightlife of Konoha had only improved in times of peace. The seventh reign marked a new age of the shinobi world, and most of the people were leading happy lives. It was in this setting that Naruto and Grafia had set out on their date. Naruto was wearing a blood orange dress shirt and black jeans, whereas his wife had donned a white turtleneck and blue jeans. They looked exactly like the power couple they were. The two were currently on their way to Ichiraku Ramen. While it might not be a date-worthy location for the general public, the restaurant held a special meaning for the couple. It was dear to Naruto's heart, as well as the place where he had his first date with his wife. The fact that his wife loved their ramen only helped Naruto decide to propose to her faster. "Fie-chan, have I told you that you look super pretty today?" "Yes, you did. This is the third time, dear." She chuckled. "Well, you're just so pretty that telling you once isn't enough, you know?" Naruto grinned. "How original, husband," Grafia said, rolling her eyes. "Mao, I thought you liked it when I paid you compliments." Naruto muttered sadly, "But if not, I'll stop." "No!" Grafia instantly retorted but schooled her features. I mean, you shouldn't change your behavior on my account." She coughed and looked away, a mild blush on her pale cheeks. "It's not like I mind it," she whispered. Contrary to popular belief, Grafia loved it when Naruto complimented her, as his words were always sweet and honest. Her heart beat faster whenever he called her pretty, and her stomach did a flip whenever he proclaimed his love for her, which was several times per day, much to her delight. She'd never admit this in public, though. Her pride as the Hokage's secretary was at stake. What would the management community think of her unprofessional attitude? The people of Konoha already thought her a cold and calculating woman. Her reputation would be ruined. Also, only Naruto was allowed to say such sweet things to her without being turned into an icicle. "That's so adorable." Naruto pulled his wife closer, an arm around her shoulder. "I'll give you double praise from tomorrow, believe it." Grafia's cheeks tinged red at Naruto's loud words. People across the street were staring at them, whispering and cheerfully waving at their Hokage and First Lady. She gave everyone a respectful nod while Naruto boisterously smiled and waved back at them. Now that he finally had the village's respect, he was basking in the limelight. "It's Hokage-sama and Grafia-sama. Are they on a date? How romantic. Why don't you look at me like he looks at his wife?" A woman asked her husband, then slapped him on the back of his head for staring at Grafia. He was not the only one. Grafia was undoubtedly the most beautiful woman in Konoha, so she had many admirers. Too bad they would have to get through Naruto first, just like Naruto's fangirls were often scared away by his irate wife. There were some disadvantages of being Konoha's poster couple. "Everyone's looking at my beautiful wife," Naruto shouted, conveniently ignoring his own fangirls. "I'm gonna scare them away." "You will do no such thing, Hokage-sama," Grafia sternly admonished while dragging Naruto towards Ichiraku. The last thing they needed was a scene. Are we back to calling me Hokage-sama again?" "It is only appropriate in a public setting, Hokage-sama." Naruto sighed as he was led along by his wife. "We're on a date, Grafia. Please call me by my name. It feels like there's a distance between us when you call me Hokage-sama, and I don't like it," he said seriously. He did not want to be addressed so formally on a date by his wife, it just felt weird. "I'm surprised you could construct such a complicated sentence, Naruto-sama," Grafia retorted calmly, a small smirk on her face. Naruto stared flatly at his wife, suppressing a smile. She referred to him by his name, and insulted him in the same sentence. He loved her so much. She was so smart. "Call me Naruto-kun and I'll take the insult," he cut in glibly. Grafia tucked a strand of silver hair behind her ear and averted her eyes. "Okay, Naruto-kun," she said, looking very shy. She wasn't used to such casual behavior in public, but it was exciting. Naruto's eyes widened and he bounced in place. Too cute, must not hug. He dramatically used his left hand to stop his right, which was moving to glomp Grafia. "That's it, I'm out. Don't wake me up unless someone attacks the village," Kurama grumbled before cutting their link. He knew Naruto well enough to escape the cuteness before it escalated. Grafia easily dodged the hand and grabbed it. "Let us away, husband." She sniffed and began leading him away. "Ooh, what fancy language." "Humph." They arrived at Ichiraku Ramen, which had expanded to adapt to the new customers which Naruto's fame brought. Since he and his wife were regulars, they had a perpetual reservation in the restaurant. Welcome to Ichiraku Ramen no Hokage-sama. I am greeted brightly, smiling at the sight of Naruto. The blonde just whined. Nei-chan. It's bad enough with this one, but not you too. He pointed accusingly at his wife. I am giggled into her sleeve, giving the couple an amused glance. Naruto-kun, are you here for your date? Yeah. Do you have a table for two, Ichiraku-san? I am chuckled at Graphia's usual formality, long since used to it. Even though they had a standing reservation, she still confirmed every time. Yes, we do. Please follow me, she said and led them to their booth. Naruto rushed past Graphia and gestured to her seat, bowing slightly. Milady. He looked very pleased with himself at his manners. Graphia just deadpanned at him, standing in place. You're supposed to pull my chair for me, dear. Just saying milady serves no purpose. Naruto blinked. But it's a booth, he said sheepishly. Then why even say it? I didn't think that far ahead, okay. He pouted. I wanted to act all gentlemanly, you know? Graphia smiled softly at this. Even after years of marriage, Naruto still tried so hard to make her feel special and keep the spark alive. He succeeded tremendously, of course. The little things he did, from pulling her chair to giving her random flowers, made her love him all the more. And now he was sulking, which made Graphia frown. While she did love all his little gestures, she should be doing a better job of letting him know. She didn't want to appear ungrateful, which was far from the truth. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I'm flattered, she said happily. My husband is such a gentleman. Graphia kissed him on the cheek and took her seat. She spotted the faint pink on his whiskered cheeks and smirked victoriously. She resolved to show him more affection from now on. Well. Naruto stuttered. Let's eat, shall we? He said, hurriedly taking a seat and burying his face in the menu. While you have, Fia-chan? His voice was much lower than one would expect from him. They ordered their food, but Naruto still hadn't looked up from his menu. Cute. Graphia decided to tease him a little. Is my darling husband getting shy? Graphia cooed, relishing in Naruto's embarrassment. How adorable. Naruto jumped a bit as he buried his red cheeks deeper into the menu. Where's this coming from, Graphia? What was this? His wife never called him adorable in public, nor did she show much affection. He was used to her disposition by now, as she was a very professional and private person. But he didn't completely hate this side of her. You always say such thoughtful things to me, I just thought I'd return the favor. She then gained a sly smile. Don't you like it, beloved? Oh Kami, my heart. You can't just spring this on me, you know? Naruto lamented inwardly, as he was stabbed by a large pink arrow with beloved written on it. Naruto, even with all his might and fame, still got very bashful when someone actually praised him or paid him a genuine compliment. Words of love by his wife were very rare in public, so they were super effective. For all his attention-seeking in his childhood, Naruto's inability to accept praise was endearing to his wife. And just like that, Naruto's brain turned to mush and he rebooted. Death threats and curses of hatred were fine, but this was too sudden. Graphia giggled at her slumped husband. If you can dish it, you have to be able to take it, dear. Naruto recovered and scratched his whisker marks. I'm sorry, I'm just not used to hearing such things from you, you know? Graphia looked sad at that, her self-consciousness resurfacing. I know I don't say such things a lot, it's difficult for me. She had been raised from birth to serve the Lucifer clan, like many of her family. She had no experience speaking so informally to anyone, especially her husband who was also her superior. In private, she opened up and could express herself properly, but it was difficult in public. I know, honey. And I love you exactly how you are. See? I want to be able to say such things in public to you, to tell you that I love you or compliment you effortlessly as you do to me. She mumbled timidly. But you say things like that all the time at home. Graphia sighed in exasperation. Why did he have to be so understanding and selfless? That's at home, where it's just the two of us. She blushed slightly. I want to hug you in public, or shout out that's my husband. Like you do? Naruto put down his menu as their food arrived. After they were alone again, he reached across the table and gently took a hold of Graphia's hand. Fia-chan, listen to me. When she looked at him, he continued. It's who you are, and I don't want you to change just because I behave a certain way. You're so professional and strict. Do you want me to become like you? I want you to take your work seriously, but not to change completely, she retorted. His exuberance was one of the things she loved, and it would be bad if he became cold and stoic like her. That's how I feel. And since you're not used to public affection, you give the cutest reactions, you know? Naruto grinned and then gripped her hand tighter. Besides, I like being the only one to see that side of you. It makes me feel special. Graphia's eyes widened as his words registered. It was another way to look at things. He felt special because only he could see her caring side? That was a big relief to her. She had nothing to worry about, her husband was amazing. He would never hold her personality against her, and it was one of the many things which made her love him. The thought warmed her heart and brought a happy smile to her face. I love you so much, Naruto-kun, Graphia spoke softly, tucking her hair behind her ear. You're the best husband a woman could ask for. She smiled shyly, averting her eyes. It was a stark contrast to her office persona, which made it extremely cute. The Hokage's eyes widened as he heard her. This had to be the first time that Graphia said those words in a public setting, albeit quietly. One look at his wife told him exactly how difficult it must have been for her to say it. She was looking from side to side, fiddling with her chopsticks and picking at her food. Seeing as she was very vulnerable, Naruto decided not to tease her, and instead replied from the heart. Naruto kissed the back of the hand he was holding. I love you, Graphia-chan, believe it. You're the best wife too, he said with a gentle smile, which made her blush even darker. It was getting really difficult not to tease her, but Naruto managed to resist. The rest of their date progressed marvelously, and the couple went home hand in hand, with their love reaching new heights. Flashback how they got together. Naruto, do you like anyone? When Sakura asked the question, everyone inside Ichiraku, along with everyone on the street outside, ground to a dead stop. It was the only question that mattered to many young girls nowadays. Whom did Naruto Uzumaki like? The hero of the shinobi world was the #1 eligible bachelor in the elemental nations, with many admirers vying for his affections. His horde of fangirls outnumbered all the great shinobi before him, Hashirama and Tobirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi, and even Minato Namikaze. Naruto was simply the most popular shinobi ever. So it was understandable that Sasuke, Sai, Tuchi, Ayam, and pretty much the entire block came to a screeching halt to finally get the answer they were waiting for. Unbeknownst to them, a certain silver-haired devil was also nearby and had stopped to listen to Naruto's answer. Dozens of heads watched in anticipation as Naruto finished slurping up his ramen and looked to Sakura. Huh? What did you say, Sakura-chan? The medic simply repeated, used to his knucklehead behavior by now. I asked you if there is anyone you like? She knew that Naruto no longer had his crush on her, as he had moved on before the war started. She was bored and just wanted something to gossip about with Ino. I like lots of people, Sakura-chan. Naruto grinned, completely missing the point. No, you idiot. I meant in a romantic sense. That gave Naruto pause, along with all the spectators. He had never thought about it in detail. When he was a child, a small part of him doubted if he would ever find anyone, whether anyone would even want him. Those were the worst times, feeling unwanted and undeserving of love. But then he found his bonds, his precious people. They filled the hole in his heart, which a life of loneliness had created. For a while, it was enough. Gigi, Bachan, Erosenin, and his team were all family. He would cherish them forever. But at the same time, Naruto wanted a family of his own. He wanted children to spoil and love so that he could give them everything he hadn't received. He wanted someone to settle down with, a wife to spend the rest of his life with. He wanted all those things, but he hadn't the slightest idea of how to go about it. His fangirls listened in earnest, eager to find out who Naruto-sama liked. Oh, he said, looking contemplative, no, I don't like anyone right now, not romantically at least. All those shallow enough to not notice the somber tone in his voice left the scene, squealing and giggling happily. Only those close to him remained, and grew concerned. Sai, who was adept at reading emotional cues, figured out that Naruto was sad. He didn't know why though. Tuchi and Ayam frowned slightly, as they knew exactly what Naruto was thinking. He had confided in the shop owners quite a bit during his childhood, after all. Sakura and Sasuke also caught on to this, but they had no idea what to do. Blaming herself for making Naruto sad, Sakura decided to just power through the situation. It was how Naruto worked best, and she knew it. Well, alright then. I'll help you, she exclaimed, earning a quizzical look from Sasuke. Graphia had sat down next to the group, seen by everyone except Naruto, who was back to devouring his ramen. How? Ino gave me this list of questions to ask for finding out who you like and stealing their heart. Sasuke gave a derisive scoff. Useless. If you want to get a man, stop being so violent. He was promptly bopped on the head by an irate Sakura. It's not useless. Then she blushed in embarrassment. And I'm not violent. Please continue, Ugly Sai spoke, and just looked at the oncoming fist blankly as he too was punched. Point proven. Sakura restrained herself and spoke. Naruto, clear your mind completely and answer the questions. You have to answer instantly, okay? She said, getting a nod from Naruto. What hair color do you like? Naruto was in thought, and a mop of beautiful silver hair flashed through his head. Silver. Graphia perked up in the background, looking almost hopeful. She had made it no secret that she was in love with her savior, but the boy was dense as a brick. The devil had been in love with Naruto for years, ever since he helped rehabilitate her. She had tried everything short of telling him outright, but her conditioning and ethics would never permit such a thing. Sai, of course, missed the point completely. I knew it, you are attracted to the Hokage. As your teammate, I support you on this journey. He gave a supportive thumbs up but was ignored by everyone. Sai noted it down under the maybe section of things to say in public. Sakura pressed on. And do you like girls with long hair? Yes. Naruto replied instantly. He always had. Graphia ran a finger through her long silver locks, still unnoticed by Naruto for some reason. And your favorite eye color? Silver. Sasuke visibly sighed in relief, along with the rest of the audience. Kakashi's eyes were black. Now, shortlisting. Is there any girl with these criteria in your circle? Sakura grinned. Come to think of it, Graphia-chan has all those things. Naruto exclaimed. So I like Graphia-chan? He tilted his head in confusion. Graphia palmed her face in agitation, still unseen by Naruto. How he became the most powerful shinobi in the nations, she'd never know. You can't ask us that, idiot. Sakura snapped, then realized that she was talking to Naruto. He needed to be guided through this, or he'd never understand. Do you think she's beautiful? Yeah, totally. Graphia looked away, lest they see her blush. She knew Naruto was tactless, but wasn't this a bit too brazen? Was this how courting progressed? Sasuke saw her plight and smirked. He knew that Graphia was smitten with the loser, and it appeared to be mutual. There was plenty of taunt material to be found here. So, would you date her? Naruto paused. Would he date her? She was extremely beautiful, so he guessed he was attracted to her. She was also kind, nice, caring, and strong. There wasn't really anything he didn't like about her. But did she even like him in the first place? If not, this discussion was moot. He thought about it for a few minutes and then spoke. I mean, I would like to, but why would she date me? He spoke confusedly and a touch sadly. There are plenty of better guys out there, you know? What an idiot. Kurama too was getting fed up. Graphia, who was on cloud 9 after hearing the first part, was now close to wringing his neck from behind. This denseness was too much. She wanted to freeze Naruto so badly for being an idiot, right before hugging him for liking her back. Sakura knew that she was almost there. So if she wanted to date you, you would go on a date with her? She prodded. Naruto scratched his cheek and replied, I guess? If she wanted to, I would gladly agree. But I don't see that happening. So you'd need a signal? Sakura asked, looking at Graphia suggestively, an indisputable signal that she likes you? Uh-huh. Sakura had the most menacing grin ever on her face. Look behind you. Naruto felt a trepidation bubbling in his chest, and he slowly turned around. Graphia-chan? Greetings, Naruto-sama. Naruto laughed nervously. So you heard all that, huh? He said with a mild blush. I did. And? I'm giving you a signal, she said bluntly, then pulled him into a tender embrace, making him squeak. She laid her head against the crook of his neck, shuffling in nervousness. Much to her delight, his arms shortly wrapped themselves around her, holding her gently. Graphia snuggled into him further, forgetting their audience, delighted after he did the same. They were lost in the moment, content in each other's arms. She was brought out of her trance when Sakura cleared her throat. After she released him with a red face, an equally red-faced Naruto squirmed nervously, and asked her. So, will you go out with me? He looked away, fidgeting slightly. He was uncharacteristically shy, which conveyed exactly how vulnerable he was. For Naruto Uzumaki to stutter, the situation was serious. I thought you'd never ask. She smiled, and they started planning for their date. Little did they know, it was the start of a lifelong love. Rias Gremory was staring at the paper in front of her with an unidentifiable gaze. When her bishop had delivered the news to her, she was not sure what to think. The redhead simply opted for asking the bearer of the report for insight. It appears that a student from our school has been killed, Kuroka? The one spoken to was Rias Bishop, Kuroka Tuju. She was a beautiful woman with long black hair and a matching black kimono. Her hazel eyes were twinkling with mirth, as they often did, accompanied by her teasing smirk. Kuroka also had 2 black cat ears and 2 tails, signifying her Nekishu heritage. Bucho, they killed Issei because they saw him as dangerous. Should we be worried, Naya? I don't see any reason to be. He did not give off any kind of energy. Because he died in our territory, Naya? Kuroka asked confusedly, aren't you worried that there are rogue fallen here? Rias just steeped her fingers and laid her chin in her hands. I have been aware of them for a long time, my cute servant. She smirked, I just needed to know where they were located, and now I do. Kuroka blinked. So you used him as bait? No. I didn't know that Issei was even a target, but it worked out. My parents would be disappointed in me if I actively bartered in lives like that. Why did you not scout him for your peerage then? Kuroka tilted her head in confusion. And why would I? Rias argued back, I have no reason to scout members as of now. Papa has told me to concentrate on my studies and have fun, she said proudly with a happy smile. That sounds boring, Naya. Kuroka deadpanned as she stretched on the couch. Yeah. Then she sat cross-legged and asked, I thought that you would be in an arranged marriage you hate, and the new servant would save you gallantly like in those anime you like. Kuroka teased with a cat-like grin. Shut up, Kuroka. Rias snapped with red cheeks, and for your information, I would be in a marriage contract right now if it weren't for Papa. She huffed. Oh? With whom, Rias-sama? A new voice asked, making the two look at the door. The one who had entered looked a lot like Kuroka, except for a shorter height and leaner build. She also had white hair instead of Kuroka's black. She was also wearing a Ko Academy uniform like Rias. Chiron-chan. Kuroka cheered and glomped the shorter girl, give your big sister a hug, Naya. Chiron simply giggled and returned her embrace, making Kuroka's tails wag. Hi, Nei-chan. Kuroka moved her so that she was sitting in her big sister's lap and started playing with her fluffy white ears. Nei-chan. I'm 15, Naya. Stop that, she complained while trying not to purr. Kuroka paid her no mind and continued stroking her hair with a dopey grin. Chiron just sighed and turned to Rias. So, who would the contract have been with? Rias's good mood deflated instantly as she grimaced. Riser Phoenix, she said with the most disgusted look she could muster. That I'll sorry. Chiron winced as she was flicked on the ear with a cry of language from Kuroka. That idiot? What happened? Chiron was extremely interested to know how Rias dodged that cannonball. Rias gained a proud smirk. My father stopped it, she declared and raised her chin haughtily. The phoenix had gone to him before I was born, to forge a union for the good of devilkind. She mocked while making air quotes. And then? Chiron asked, invested in the tale. Humph. What else? Papa kicked them out the door. He said, my little girl will marry whoever she chooses. The good of devilkind does not take priority over her wishes. And when they tried to get political, he showed them who's boss. Rias pumped her fist in the air, eyes sparkling with pride. Yua! Chiron clasped her hands with stars in her eyes, so cool. Right. Right. Rias nodded her head fervently. Her father was indeed very cool. As expected of Oto-sama, Kuroka said happily, still petting Chiron's head. When she heard this, Rias gained a tick mark on her head. Don't call him that. He's my dad, not yours. She sniffed with supreme arrogance. Oya? Is someone getting possessive? Kuroka teasingly jibed, making Rias flush, but he told us that he considers us his daughters, right, Chiron-chan? Hi, Nei-chan. Chiron nodded, making her short hair bob from the motion. He told me he loves me, that he'll always protect me. She trailed off with a beaming grin. It felt really good to know that someone loved you unconditionally and had your back always. Rias was shooting her a death glare, which Chiron ignored as she went into happy memory land. Kuroka also lost all sense of teasing and gained a soft smile on her lips. I still remember when he found us on the streets. He carried us home in his own 2 arms, fed us, cared for us, and loved us. She remembered fondly. I don't know where we would be without him, Naya. She looked Rias dead in the eye, with all the emotion a homeless, scared girl could have. If that's not a father, I don't know what is. After hearing those words from the heart, Ria's glare lost all heat. She just settled for pouting adorably at the cat sisters. Why did her father have the habit of adopting every lonely kid he came across? Her position as his little girl was in danger. She then scoffed to herself. Who was she kidding? Her father would always love her, without a doubt. He loved their whole family deeply, and his taking in children in need was one reason he was the best dad in the world. She could make do with a couple of adorable siblings if she had such an awesome dad. Era, are we talking about Gremory-sama? Ria stiffened as she looked at her queen, who had entered. Akino Himejima had the most innocent smile plastered on her face, a smile which screamed danger to anyone who knew her. I also owe my life to him, Bucho. Akino tilted her head. He is the reason my mother is alive, and I am on good terms with my father, after all. Akino also had many good memories of Ria's father. He was the one who found us in time to save my mother and me, and he is very important to all of us. She then smirked at Rias, whose pout had only increased. Ofufu, is Bucho jealous? Era, you're such a daddy's girl, Rias. She cupped her cheek with her palm and swayed slightly. Rias's cuteness was reaching critical levels, where she would probably have killed a lower-ranking being with sheer mo. She huffed in embarrassment, crossing her arms with a cute pout. Seeing her plight, Akino decided to change her subject. What's this about a student dying? Rias showed her the paper and told her the plan to deal with the fallen. Have you contacted Azazel-sama, Rias? The Alliance will want to know about this. I have, but they are rogues anyway. We have the all-clear to wipe them out, Rias said. Even though the supernatural world was in a golden age of peace, such conflicts and rogue cells popped up from time to time. All right then. We shall deal with them. Akino nodded. Where are Yudo and Gasper? Chiron piped up, still in Kuroka's lap. Oh, they're sparring, Naya. Gaspai needs to fight without relying on his sacred gear, so he is learning kenjutsu. Understood. Call them up. We move tonight. So please work with us on this. The Alliance has decreed as such. Rias and her peerage looked at the two exorcists that were seated in the ORC room, Irina and Zenobia, along with a nun. They were here to retrieve stolen Excalibur fragments, which were stolen by the fallen angel Kokobil. The man had been branded a traitor by the Alliance but had fled before being tried for his crimes. Rias looked at her knight, who was standing beside her with a blank look on his face. It must be difficult for him, with his history with the Excalibur. She was about to ask him to leave, when... I agree, Bucho. Let us do the needful, he said seriously, surprising Rias. Are you sure, Yudo? Rias asked hesitantly, with his. I need this, Rias-sama. He cut her off. I have realized that revenge is not the answer, and I need closure. He clenched his fist and stared at her with resolve. Dad must have spoken to him sometime. He's really matured, she mused. All right, as you say. Akino pointed at the small nun sitting next to Irina. Ano, who is that? The nun jerked upright in shock and poked her fingers together shyly. Apologies. My name is Asia Argento. I am here as support for my friends and to heal them if they get hurt. She blushed brightly when Irina patted her on the head. Asia has the Twilight Healing Sacred Gear, which is vital for a mission like this one, Zenobia said, making Rias nod in understanding. Kuroka had a question, however. You would even heal us, Naya? A nun willing to heal a devil? Now she'd seen everything. Asia nodded fiercely, determination in her eyes. Of course. We are all allied now, it is natural. Since the three factions were in a formal alliance, such joint operations were pretty commonplace. Rias decided to steer the conversation back to the topic. Anyway, let us plan a course of action. How convenient for both devil heiresses to be in one place. I shall slay you with haste. Kokobil cackled maliciously as he stared at the group of downed devils with all the hatred he could muster. Soon, the world will be bathed in the flames of war. Kokobil was and always had been a warmonger. Peace among the supernaturals just didn't sit right with him. What was life without conflict and strife? The Grigori had gotten complacent under that fool Azazel, and they were dallying and making friends in the name of peace. Unacceptable. The fallen were the strongest faction, and he would prove it. He would usher in a new age where they reigned supreme, and Kokobil himself would lead them towards this glorious goal. Though I have to admit, you were stronger than I had expected. Not a match for me, of course, but still. He snarked arrogantly, looking at the corpses of Fried and Valper. When he had initially thought that he'd win easily, it had not been so. The Citri girl's peerage was normal, but the Gremory girl's peerage had proven to be very meddlesome. The two cats were capable of senjutsu. The queen was able to use Baraquil's holy lightning. The bishop was in possession of the forbidden Bale of Yu, and the knight was a formidable swordsman with sword birth, which had even attained balance breaker. Even the redhead herself was proficient in the power of destruction. Kokobil had only been able to win by sacrificing both his underlings. But he had won. The pests were all on their last legs, and it would take but one attack to exterminate them. Rias glared at him with intense hate, while clutching her broken ribs. It's because we've been training extensively with our abilities. There are no shortcuts to being strong, she declared resolutely. Kokobil just laughed mockingly. And that is where you're wrong, girl. Power comes only to those blessed by fate, to those with talent. For however hard you might train, you still fell short of my might, he boasted. Aquino limped towards Rias, just as injured. Luckily, due to Asia's help, there had been no casualties, but they were all pretty battered. I still don't understand why you told me not to contact your brother, Bucho. Rias just looked away, clenching her fists. It's because I'm tired of being the princess or the damsel in distress, Aquino. I am tired of always needing someone to save me, she screamed, making Aquino's eyes widen. I wanted to prove that I can look after myself, that I can protect everyone on my own, she yelled angrily, with tears in her eyes. Aquino looked at her king with concern and sadness. Rias. Their moment was interrupted by Kokobil. How foolish! He mocked, smirking maliciously. If you had called for assistance, you might have won. Your pride will be your downfall, he shouted as he summoned a large number of light spears. As the devils and exorcists looked on helplessly at their inevitable death, Rias glanced at the necklace she was wearing and gripped it with resolve. It was a keepsake given to her by her father, with a unique seal engraved into it. She remembered what he told her while giving her the charm. I know you want to prove yourself, but I'm your father, you know? So don't be afraid to call me whenever you have no way out. I trust you, Rias. I know that you'll only use it after you've given it your best shot. I will always protect you, believe it. Smiling at the memory, Rias clutched the necklace tightly in her hand and channeled her magic into it, hoping desperately that she wasn't too late. Chiron watched in horror as the hail of spears descended onto them like a personification of death. Her life flashed before her eyes, and she found that she had no regrets. She had an awesome big sister, and an amazing family with whom she had spent the past years happily. Chiron closed her eyes as she resigned herself to her fate, awaiting her death. When no such death came, she was surprised. She opened her eyes, only to be blinded by several rapid flashes of red. Chiron watched in shock as each spear was systematically destroyed by a corresponding flash. When the flashes of light died down, she was greeted with an unusual sight. There, standing in between Kokobil and their downed forms, was a single figure. The person had their back turned to them, but Chiron recognized him instantly. Not many people she knew had such deep crimson hair, after all. Otasama. It seemed that everyone else had also taken note of the newcomer, and had various reactions. The exorcists and Sona's peerage straightened up in respect, bar Saji, who was new and didn't know the man. Kuroka, who had appeared at her sister's side to check on her, also had a happy smile at seeing the redhead. Aquino, Gasper, and Yuto sighed visibly in relief, a heavy burden off their shoulders. Rias had tears in her eyes as she clutched her necklace tightly, grinning and crying at the same time from all the exertion. Papa! The most telling reaction, by far, was from Kokobil himself. The man's pride and arrogance had bled out of him completely, and he was staring wide-eyed at the newcomer. Why you? He pointed a finger, positively trembling with fear. All semblance of bravado gone, the fallen could only look in shock as he desperately tried to gain his composure. The man who had appeared was a tall man who looked to be in his mid-20s, with a muscular build to emphasize speed over strength. He had spiky crimson hair, sparkling azure eyes, and 3 faint whisker-like marks on his cheeks. He was wearing a formal black suit. Why are you here, Naruto Gremory? Kokobil shouted, trying to appear strong. Have you come to be cut down by me as well? Naruto simply looked at him, looked hard. Kokobil started sweating in nervousness, fearing his response. The redhead simply ignored the fallen, and made a beeline straight for Rias and the others. Reaching the downed kids, he was immediately tackled in a flying glomp by 3 multicolored blurs. He looked down to see Kuroka, Chiron, and Rias hugging him tightly, sobbing into his chest. Even Aquino joined the group hug with a smile. I thought I was going to die. Chiron wept as she clutched his suit tightly. You saved us, Naya, Kuroka said as she too hugged Naruto. Foolish. Kokubil shouted as he readied an attack, but he found Naruto looking at him over his shoulder. One of the redhead's eyes was deep crimson with a slitted pupil, and it looked wrong. Kokubil found himself rooted to his place in fear, unable to move a muscle. Such power! To freeze me with but a glance. Naruto looked at his daughter, who was hugging him but looking away from him. Gently tilting her head to face him, Rias still averted her eyes. Rias-chan, look at me. His fatherly tone only served to bring more tears to Rias' eyes. She was disappointed in herself. She had failed to protect those who were precious to her and had to rely on her father to bail her out, again. She was a failure. She didn't deserve to be the heiress. I'm sorry, Papa. She cried as she clung on to him for dear life. I couldn't beat him, I couldn't protect everyone. Rias bowed her head in shame. She was a failure, a disappointment. She had trained so hard, sacrificed so much, yet she still couldn't protect her family with her own power. If her father hadn't appeared when he did, they all would have died. She was snapped out of her thoughts when she felt a hand pat her head. She looked up to see her father smiling softly at her. You did well, sweetie. I'm proud of you. The simple words brought immense happiness and relief to the young girl's mind as she bit her lip to quell the fresh tears that had started falling. You sit back and relax, okay? Let your father take care of this one. Naruto grinned, poking Ria's forehead. The girl weakly nodded and went towards her peerage to recuperate. Naruto turned to where Kokubil was flying, and his smile turned into a snarl. The fallen flinched at the sheer rage emanating from the redhead until he felt it. Death. Kokubil froze in midair as the overwhelming presence of dread washed over him. He had only felt such intense bloodlust once in his life before, when he had faced this very man in combat. This killing intent overwhelming. The spectators, who were all children, had dropped to the ground from the sheer weight of the pressure, even though it wasn't directed at them. Who is that guy? Saji shouted, trembling in shock. Sona pushed up her glasses and looked at him, sweating mildly from the pressure. That guy, as you crudely referred to him, is Ria's father. Lord Naruto Gremory, the head of the Gremory clan, she said, making her palm pale in fright. But why is Kokubil so scared of him? Lord Gremory is the most powerful devil in the world. Zenobia cut in. As an exorcist, it was her duty to be familiar with key figures of each faction. And Lord Gremory was one of the most famous. He can defeat Kokubil with ease. Wait, the most powerful devil? Asia shyly said, then why isn't he a Mao? That I do not know. Akino glanced at Rias, who was looking away in embarrassment. Bucho? Rias looked at the group with a red face. He's not leading because he wants to spend his life traveling the world with my mother and eat every kind of ramen in existence, she mumbled, burying her face in her hands. For all the power her father held, his reason for not leading the underworld was lame. Very lame. But he advises the Mao from time to time, she retorted weakly, trying to save face. While this conversation was taking place, Naruto was having one of his own. So, Kokubil, he drawled, picking at his nails. Why are you doing this? Kokubil went on a long tirade about the glorious war, but Naruto was somewhere else mentally. Finally! A decent fight! Kurama roared in his mind. Years of your ramen tours and cutesy talks with your wife have made me sick. He grinned menacingly. Naruto just gave the fox a flat look. I could always summon you out, you know? You could go play with the dragons in the mountains. He clapped his hands gleefully. As if. Kurama scoffed, those lizards are weak. And you think this guy is strong? Well. Thought so. How insufferable. Even when you reincarnated, I am stuck with you. Kurama huffed. I've grown bored after centuries of peace. Hey! Look on the bright side, at least I got red hair this time. Naruto boasted as he ran a hand through his magnificent crimson locks. What an imbecile. Naruto just ignored his tenant and focused on the fallen, who was still mid-rant. He stared blankly at him, and then shouted. Hey, idiot! Kokubil balked at the crude statement, and looked fit to retort but then remembered who was speaking. What? You made 2 mistakes, you know? Then Naruto vanished in a flash, leaving the spectators to look around wildly. Naruto appeared behind Kokubil, with a punch aimed at his face. Mistake when you attacked my kids! The blow connected with the weight of a falling star, and Kokubil had no room to dodge. He was sent crashing down to the earth, where a huge explosion accompanied his arrival. He tried to get up, but Naruto was upon him again, his foot on Kokubil's back. Oof. He struggled, unable to move. He looked up at Naruto, who was glaring down at him. And mistake too, your timing could not possibly be any worse. Naruto hissed angrily. You know what I was doing before Rias called me? Naruto asked, only to receive no reply from the scared fallen. Do you? He thundered, making the poor fallen shake his head meekly. I'll tell ya! Naruto then cupped his cheeks dramatically, swaying from side to side. My darling Vene-chan had made ramen for me. He trailed off, a bit of drool escaping from his lips. Then his expression turned murderous again. My beautiful, amazing wife had made special homemade ramen with her own hands. Naruto stomped his foot down, making Kokobil's spine crack. For me! Another stomp, another cry of pain. And you're the reason it's all cold now. Naruto stomped his foot again, confusing Kokobil a lot, even in his state of excruciating pain. The spectators had different reactions. What? Tsubaki muttered, not entirely understanding the situation. He's screwed. Rias' entire peerage deadpanned simultaneously. Naruto looked at the downed Kokobil underneath his foot. Bakeabil, he began, causing some of the kids to giggle. I was planning on flexing a bit since the kids are here, you know? Naruto then materialized a truth-seeking orb and smashed it downwards. But you're not worth it. Kurama will have to sit this one out. He whispered coldly as the fallen angel disintegrated before his eyes. The spectacle was observed by the devils, shocking them tremendously. Sona looked wide-eyed and turned to Rias. He destroyed Kokobil in an instant. What technique was that? Her thirst for knowledge was acting up, eyes practically sparkling in excitement. Such power! Such destruction! She gushed, breaking her composure momentarily. Rias just stuck her tongue out at her friend. Secret! She smirked. Spoilsport! Sona grumbled as she looked away. Saji just gulped and stepped back, glad that this monster hadn't heard his earlier disrespect. By then, Kokobil was done away with, and Naruto turned to the devil kids. With a grin and a cheery wave, he greeted them. Yo! The Gremory Peerage and Naruto were sitting in the ORC room 2 hours after the incident. Since it was all sanctioned, there had been no legal complications to speak of. They had repaired the school, and the exorcists had gone off to report to their superiors. Naruto was sitting on the couch next to Chiron, petting her head as she slept. The kids were all exhausted, and Chiron and Gasper had conked out, being the smallest of them. Naruto-sama, would you like some tea? Akino chirped from beside him, kettle in hand. Yep. Naruto blew on it tenderly as he drank the tea, eyes widening at the flavor. This is amazing, Akino-chan. He patted her head as well, making her sputter in embarrassment. Na Naruto-sama. The normally elegant queen squeaked with a red face. What? Naruto grinned cheekily. You kids are just so cute, you know. He stroked Chiron's hair softly, making her purr in her sleep. Adorable. He enjoyed teasing the children immensely. Before Akino could be further embarrassed, a jealous Rias cut in. Papa? Yes, Rias-chan? Naruto looked at her, smiling. Well, she trailed off, unsure of what to say. She had just interrupted to get his attention but had no plans on what to do with it. Otasama, are you coming to the open house? Kuroka asked from across the room, saving Rias. She was also lying down on a couch by herself. Of course. I wouldn't miss it for the world. Naruto pumped his fist in the air. I wonder what chaos everyone will cause together under one roof, ahuhu. He giggled with gleaming eyes. I can't wait. Naruto grinned as he skipped about the halls of the Gremory estate. Why is that, dear? The woman next to him asked. She was a beautiful brunette with violet eyes, wearing a white sundress. She was Naruto's wife, Venelana Gremory. It's the kids' open house today. And? After thinking about it, Naruto deflated. And nothing. It's nothing special, but I still got all excited, you know? He sulked. Venelana giggled demurely. I jest, husband. I very much adore that hyperactive nature of yours, after all. She batted her eyelashes at him. Naruto blushed as he straightened up, looking away from his wife. Well, he cleared his throat. I was going to gather everyone up to leave in about an hour. All right. I have some business to attend to. What will you do? What business? Naruto tilted his head. Venelana rolled her eyes at her husband's clueless nature. A new collection of gems and artifacts has arrived. I have to inspect them. Venelana had various businesses, which were highly profitable. Naruto didn't understand half of what she did but always encouraged her to follow her dreams. Naruto nodded. Can I come with you? Of course, it's a Gremory business after all. Naruto shook his head, confusing his wife. Nah, that's your business, Vene-chan, he grinned when she blushed slightly. You built it from the ground up, and all the credit goes to you. I'm perfectly happy supporting you, you know? Venelana was filled with pride and love at hearing those words. In the underworld, most devils would sell their own children off to other clans in a bid to gain more power. But her husband never cared about any of that. He had plenty of power and did not use it maliciously or selfishly. Any other lord would have seized control of their spouse's business already, making her little more than a glorified secretary while they took all the credit. She really lucked out with her husband. His selfless nature was one of the things she loved most about him. She lost herself in thought as she remembered the meeting which decided their future. Flashback. You two shall be wed for the alliance between the Bale and the Gremory. Venelana's world went white as she heard Zekrom Bale speak. She had met Naruto once or twice before at gatherings, and he really wasn't a bad guy. But this? To be married off to someone without having a say in the matter? To spend centuries, her entire life, shackled to a single man? Even if Naruto was perfectly decent, Venelana hated how helpless she was. She was only 18, she didn't deserve this. No. Venelana, along with the Bale and Gremory clan members, stared at Naruto in shock. Had she heard him correctly? A faint bud of hope bloomed in her heart, but she dared not let it grow. Zekrom narrowed his eyes at the redhead. Care to repeat yourself, boy? Are you deaf? I said I'm not marrying her, you know? Naruto replied, making the elders balk at his boldness. Venelana giggled slightly at that, glad that no one heard her. They were too focused on Naruto. Zekrom's power flared in anger as he got up from his seat. Power of destruction was radiating around him in a vicious miasma, making everyone around him tremble in fear. Even Venelana stepped back slightly, wanting to avoid his wrath. Naruto just closed his eyes and yawned. Is that it? He asked, rubbing his eyes groggily. Zekrom raised his power even more as his face contorted in rage, making the walls crack from the sheer force. Venelana had trouble standing, while some of the older devils had started sweating from the pressure. Don't try too hard, old man. You'll shit your pants or something, Naruto barked, laughing at his own joke. He wasn't fazed in the slightest at the show of strength. The elders looked fit to faint at the blatant disrespect, and Venelana hid her smile with her hand. He's a really interesting guy, he's cute too, now that I look closely, she thought with a slight blush. Zekrom let up, seeing as he wasn't having an effect. Know your place, boy. You will do as I say. Yeah, right. Naruto guffawed, clutching his sides. Should I go to my room too, mama? The audacity. This upstart, who does he think he is? The enraged shouts of the elders reached Venelana's ears, making her nervous. While Zekrom couldn't attack the Gremory heir outright, he could undoubtedly make Naruto's life miserable. Such was the influence of the Bale clan. Zekrom calmed himself and decided to change his approach. And why not, may I ask? Is she not appealing enough to you? He said, clearly goading Naruto into a trap. Venelana had mixed feelings about the question. She would be free, but only because he found her unattractive? The thought left a sinking feeling in her stomach. She's very pretty, but that's not the point, Naruto replied without thinking, making Venelana's eyes widen. The point is that both of us should have a choice in who we want to marry, simple as that. This just reaffirmed her growing respect for the redhead in front of her. Zekrom wasn't deterred. The power he would gain from this marriage was almost making him salivate, and he wouldn't part with it so quickly. You have no choice, he whispered coldly. At the end of his patience, you both are simply the tools of your clan to gain more influence. Your feelings don't matter. You are destined to be wed for the good of devilkind. It is your fate. Just like that, Zekrom laid down the law. Whatever hope Venelana had gotten from the previous minutes was fast being lost again. The Bale clan was the most influential and powerful in the underworld, and one didn't disobey the great king like that. Just before she was about to resign herself to her fate, the atmosphere of the room turned chilly. Looking around, she found the source to be Naruto. He was grinning, but it was so very fake. His eyes had a certain gleam to them, which unsettled Venelana quite a bit. Naruto chuckled, which was far from a happy sound, old man. You just managed to cram all the wrong words into a single sentence, you know? He pointed a finger at Zekrom, who was looking back warily. Fate, destiny, tools? What difference does that make? I don't care about fate. he snapped, making the devils go on guard. Then Alana was shocked, to say the least. This person was vastly different from the laid-back, happy Naruto she'd known. But she didn't interrupt, just stayed back and watched. I challenge you to a duel. 1-on-1. I'll kick your wrinkly ass, believe it. And the rest was history. Suffice to say, when Naruto later asked her out, and she was free to decide, she happily gave him a chance. And it was the best decision of her life. Then A-chan. Naruto waved his hand in front of her head, snapping her out of her thoughts. You spaced out for a bit. Then Alana shook her head, giving him a soft smile. Just remembering some fond memories, Naruto-kun. Oh, what? She merely poked his nose, making him blink. It's a secret. Mao, how mean. Naruto pouted and then changed the subject because it was boring. Let's go on a date after the open house. Then Alana just wrapped her arm around his and leaned into his shoulder. Where would we go? Naruto pondered as they kept walking. How about Paris? Or the moon? I could also ask Office-chan to take us to a nice, quiet dimension. He shot off the options in excitement. Then Alana's sweat dropped. Why did you pick such extreme locations? Wouldn't any restaurant suffice? Although she didn't mind in the slightest. His ideas of activities were all very unique, and she enjoyed his plans immensely. Naruto just looked at her in shock. I'm not going to take my wife to some normal place, you know. There has to be flair. He flailed his free hand dramatically to show her the seriousness of the situation. His wife sighed fondly and closed her eyes, being led along by her husband. Never changed, dear. She whispered. She was glad that Naruto put so much effort into making her feel special, even centuries after being together. He indeed was an amazing husband. What was that? Nothing, nothing. She waved her hand. I'm looking forward to our date. Yeah. It'll be awesome, believe it. Yash, are you ready? Naruto asked, getting a nod from his wife. Let's go then, he said as they were engulfed in a magic circle. They appeared in the ORC room to be greeted by Rias and her peerage. Papa! Mama! Rias ran forward and glommed the duo, who happily returned her embrace. Naruto went to speak with the other kids while Venelana chatted with Rias. Yo, kids! Naruto-sama. Kiba bowed respectfully, only to grunt in surprise when he was pulled into a headlock by the redhead. Yeah. Don't be so stiff, Yuto. Naruto ruffled his hair while not loosening his hold in the slightest. And what have I told you about the Sama, You said not to. Kiba muttered while he tried to struggle out of the headlock. It was only for appearances, though, as a small smile could be seen on the blonde knight's face. It felt good to have a father figure he could rely on, but he was either too shy or too proud to say it out loud. Naruto released Kiba as Akino walked towards him, tea tray in hand. He just accepted it with a smile and sat down on the couch. Kuroko was sleeping next to him, snoring away contentedly. Naruto grinned and decided to prank her. The chance was simply too good to pass up. He leaned down and tickled one of Kuroka's fluffy ears, making them twitch slightly. She mumbled something incoherent and shifted in her sleep, but didn't wake up. I need to amp it up, Naruto said, stroking his whisker marks. He then tickled both of her ears simultaneously, making them twitch and flutter even more. Nyahaha Kuroka had started giggling in her sleep, much to the amusement of the room. Seeing as it still hadn't worked, Naruto went for his finishing move. He blew a puff of air directly into her ear. Aya! Kuroka jolted awake with a squeak, only to find Naruto whistling innocently beside her. She narrowed her eyes at him, obviously used to his behavior. Dad? She rubbed the sleep out of her eyes before glaring at him. That was you, wasn't it? Naruto's whistling intensified. The most powerful shinobi, everyone. Kurama drawled sarcastically while clapping his paws slowly. Truly the paragon of excellence. Deawad? Kuroka inched closer to Naruto, who was showing no signs of guilt. No idea what you're talking about, sweetie. Kuroka clearly didn't believe him and turned to the other occupants, while Naruto shook his head rapidly and held his hands in prayer. I didn't see anything, Kuroka. Akino smirked, getting a thankful nod from Naruto. Before she could question them further, another magic circle lit up in the room, and two people appeared from it. A tall man with rich crimson hair, and a stoic woman with silver hair dressed in a maid outfit. Then Alana, who was standing beside Naruto, smiled at the newcomers. Hello, Sirs ex Graphia. Surzek's Lucifer waved at his parents, while Graphia offered a polite bow. Mom, Dad, it's nice to see you. Naruto walked behind Surzek and slapped him on the back, making him stagger slightly. How are ya, shrimp? Surzek sighed tiredly and rubbed his sore back. Dad, could you control your power a bit? You could have cracked my spine. He tried to reason, but Naruto merely waved it off and moved towards Graphia. The maid nodded and actually smiled, which surprised everyone in the room. Hello, father, she said, making Surzek pout. How unfair. He pointed a finger at Graphia. You call him father, but you always call me Lucifer-sama. She was undeterred. It is because he is not my superior, Lucifer-sama, and I have been asked to address him as such, she replied in a professional tone, although her voice conveyed warmth. Naruto was the first one after her husband, who had accepted her. She had defected to the anti-Satan faction. He was one of the kindest and most trustworthy devils she'd met, and it was due to his support that she had been accepted readily by the public. In addition to the respect she had for him, he had all but adopted her after becoming his daughter-in-law. Being from a strict servant clan, she was unfamiliar with the love of a parent to a large extent. Naruto and Venelana filled that void and made her feel at home. She was thankful to have the Gremries in her life. But ow! Surzek was cut off as his cheek was pinched harshly by his irate wife. Venelana giggled slightly at the familiar sight of her son. I see you've not changed, Surzek. Surzek was about to reply until he saw a certain look in Graphia's eyes. It was accompanied by a tiny smirk, which spelt only trouble for him. Since his father had met her, he had resolved to shatter her cold persona and introduce her to the joys of pranking. He had succeeded splendidly. What can I say, mother? Graphia spoke up, her tone somber. He is always procrastinating and never does his work on time. She created a fake tear and wiped it away dramatically. I, as a maid, can only do so much, and I find myself at my wit's end. She sniffled for a bit, and it was so fake that Surzek was tempted to call her out. But he was not given a chance. Naruto appeared behind him and bonked the top of his head. You brat! How can you be so lazy? Naruto asked Surzek, who was nursing a comical lump on his head. You need to take your position seriously, you know? Naruto went to Graphia and hugged her, having completely fallen for her prank. There, you don't have to worry anymore. He soothed while patting her head. I'll make sure he stays on top of his work, okay? And I can always give him some remedial training if he doesn't. Surzek's face paled at the mention of his father's training as he looked at his wife. She had a content expression on her face from having her head petted, but he could still see her evil smirk. It looked like he was the only one, as the other kids and his mom were all looking sadly at Graphia. Damn you, Dad! He lamented inwardly. You even managed to turn my wife, the most professional person I've met, into a prankster. Thank you, Father, Graphia said as she went to stand behind Surzek. Please take care of the matter. You bet. Surzek was getting tired of the teasing when he spotted someone he very much wanted to see. Rias was amused at the earlier interaction but now looked at him warily, having predicted the next course of events. She tried to leave the room but was too late. Little sis. The Gremry family were walking through the halls of Konoha Academy, and they were turning a lot of heads. It couldn't be helped. Each member of the family had almost a divine beauty to them, a kind of beauty humans simply weren't meant to attain. Naruto smiled and waved at the kids, which caused many boys and girls alike to swoon at his coolness. The rest of the adults merely offered polite smiles. Man, what are we supposed to do while the kids have their classes? Naruto grumbled as he walked alongside Venelana. I'm bored. Shall we go eat something? Venelana asked. She was getting rather tired of waiting herself. Yash! Let's see if they have ramen, Naruto declared as he started marching towards the cafeteria. Surzek and Graphia also left to explore the school on their own. Uncle! Auntie! Naruto turned around and smiled at the owner of the voice. It was a young man accompanied by an older woman. Serorg. Misla. How's it going? Serorg Bale walked up to his uncle's side with a smile. I'm doing well, uncle. Busy with my duties as the heir, he said, making Naruto nod. Serorg was also in Ria's class at Ko, along with his queen. Serorg Bale was the heir of the Bale clan, something which he had to struggle a lot to achieve. Since he did not possess the power of destruction, he and his mother had been shunned by the clan. Since then, he had resolved to train his body to its limits and prove that he could still be strong without his bloodline. Serorg had visited the Gremry estate once, and his situation had reached Naruto's ears. He had since taken an interest in Serorg and offered to train him. Naruto had been impressed by his determination, as it reminded him Rock Lee. It went without saying that when the most powerful devil, who also taught the Formao how to fight, offered you training, one did not refuse. The training had been absolute hell, but he had gotten much stronger at the end of it. Oni-sama, Wani-sama. Miss Lin nodded and gave them a small smile, happy to see them after so long. When she had fallen into a coma, she had not expected to wake up. But she miraculously managed to recover, only to find her sister-in-law and her family in the room. They didn't know how she managed to pull through, but Naruto's cheeky wink and grin had told her all she needed to know. Also, when he learned about their whole story, Naruto promptly beat the snot out of this generation's Lord Bale as well. Naruto beating up Bale Lords seemed like a tradition at this point, as even Sarorg had gotten beaten to a pulp during training. All these formal people. Gah! Naruto pulled at his hair in distress, then H-chan. I'm living in the mountains, bye. He nodded determinedly, pointing into the distance, probably at some mountains. No one listens to me, you know? How will you get ramen then, dear? Mountain plan cancelled. To the cafe. Naruto turned around mechanically and stormed off with a red face, ignoring his wife and sisters giggling. I see Oni-sama is still as lively as ever? Venelana rolled her eyes. You have no idea. After having their lunch, Naruto and Venelana were roaming around the school when they heard large groups of students heading towards the gym. Having nothing better to do, they followed. Upon seeing what the commotion was, Naruto palmed his face. Honestly, this girl Venelana simply watched on, amused. On the stage was Sarah Fall Leviathan, dressed in a pink magical girl costume. She was waving around her staff and striking poses from her show, much to the delight of the audience. Upon seeing Naruto and Venelana, her eyes widened as a grin burst on her face. Sensei! Naruto nimbly moved to the side to dodge a flying Seraphal and grabbed her mid-flight by the scruff of her neck. Hello, Seraphal. What's all this? He gave her a flat look, holding her up like a child. Seraphal sheepishly chuckled as Naruto let her down. I'm doing a magical girl meet and greet. She winked at him and held up a peace sign. I also came to see So-tan. Naruto smiled softly and patted her on the head, as she was much shorter than him. It's nice to see you, Sarah. You look very magical today. He joked. Seraphal happily leaned her head into his palm, like a content kitten. She could always be herself when she was around her teacher. Since her younger years, Seraphal had been constantly told to grow up and act like an heiress, which only increased after she became a Mao. But Naruto never ridiculed her for being childish or immature. It might be because he was just as immature as her with his prankster attitude, but the sentiment remained. Leviathan-sama, please act as per your position. A cold voice spoke, belonging to Graphia. She and Surzex had entered the room, and her face was even more stoic than it usually was. Seraphal understood what was going on, and smirked evilly. Oh? But Sensei was merely showing his favorite student some affection, isn't that right, Sensei? She gave Naruto the most adorable puppy eyes ever and relished in how Graphia's face tightened. Naruto completely missed the point, dense as he was. Of course. It's been so long since I've seen her. He grinned while Graphia clenched her teeth. It was another unspoken rivalry between her and Seraphal. They already were powerful devils with ice magic, but one was Naruto's student while the other was his daughter-in-law. They knew that Naruto didn't discriminate between them and that it was a ridiculous thing to fight over, but that wasn't how rivalries worked, was it? Father, please follow proper decorum in a public space. This was the most she could say without breaching her maid etiquette. She did enjoy that Seraphal couldn't call him father, and had to settle for Sensei. Hi. Naruto rolled his eyes and withdrew his hand, making Seraphal pout. Seraphal pointed a finger at Graphia accusingly. You're just jealous that he's not patting your head, aren't you? She grinned impishly when the maid's face went slightly pink. How uncouth. I thought no such thing. She coughed, trying to regain composure. Liar! I am not. Girls. No fighting. Naruto appeared between the two women, who were almost nose to nose by now, with lightning shooting between them. Why can't you two just get along, you know? The both of them looked at each other, then at Naruto, then humphed and looked away. Seraphal stuck her tongue out at Graphia, who did not dignify that with a response. The hell was that? Idiot. Kurama jabbed. He wouldn't miss a chance to insult Naruto. Shut it. Man, who are these people? They're all so weird. The students' voices reached the devils, and Venelana quickly used magic to wipe their memories of the past few minutes and send them on their way. Stupid Sharingan copy, /stupid Sharingan copy. Naruto and Kurama lamented simultaneously. He was still a bit salty about how everyone had memory and influence magic to some extent in this world. Ha, I remember you being so smug when you wiped the memories of a human for the first time. You thought you were the only one who could do it. Take that, Sasuke. You said. Ha. I didn't pay attention to my tutors, okay. For his own mental health, Naruto ignored Kurama's uproarious laughter and focused on the present. So Tan. Seraphol glomped Sona, who had entered along with Rias and their peerages. I miss you. Did you miss your big sis? She tightened her hold on her sister for safety. Wani-sama, please don't embarrass me in front of everyone, Sona sighed as she rubbed her forehead in irritation. It's nice to see you too. While their sisterly bonding was going on, Naruto turned to Saji, who had immediately gone on high alert. He still remembered their first encounter and had no desire to get on this monster's bad side. And who might you be, young man? Jigenshura Saji, sir. Saji stuttered and ended his introduction with a salute at the end. He was trembling a bit from just standing in Naruto's presence. No need to be scared, you know. Naruto eased his worries with a smile. I'm Naruto. Naruto held out a hand, which Saji tentatively shook. You're the only one from Sona-chan's peerage I've yet to meet, so I thought I'd say hi. Saji looked at the redhead in a new light. For all his power, Naruto appeared to be a surprisingly friendly person. Maybe there was no reason to be wary of the man after all. Naruto went towards Seraphol, who was still sticking to Sona like a leech. Let her breathe, Sarah. The poor girl looks like a tomato. He gestured to Sona, who had gone red from the crushing hug. Seraphol did so and immediately got into another fight with Grafia over who had cooler ice magic. Naruto watched the various groups bicker and chat with a faraway look, lost in thought. This life isn't so bad after all. Isn't it, Kurama? I'm still bored. Kurama denied, but his voice was warmer than one would expect from a bijou. But I suppose it could be a lot worse. Naruto just laughed, glad that Kurama approved, in his own roundabout way. It's Rias Wani-sama. Kia Akino-senpai. She looked at me. Rias Gremory was used to the chants of adorations from the students whenever she walked through the hallways. It was no news to her. She was a very beautiful woman, and her fans were clearly aware of the fact. But still, she smiled and waved at them all the same, making many of her juniors swoon in place. Her queen, Akino Himejima, also walked beside her at a sedate pace, jovially greeting her own cohort of admirers. Inwardly, though, she could very well go without so many children bothering her at every turn. She was merely accompanying her king, nothing else. The two were headed to the student council room, where Ria's friend, Sona Citri, was the president. The two heiresses were very close and often met each other to chat and pass the time. Rias opened the door to the room and stepped in, turning the heads of the entire council. Sona was sitting behind an ornate wooden desk, with her queen Tsubaki standing dutifully at her side. Sona smiled at seeing her friends enter. Greetings, Rias. Akino. She nodded at both girls as Rias took a seat in front of her. What brings you here? Nothing special. I thought we could catch up. It's been about a week since we last spoke. Rias began, drinking the tea which had been put out. All right. Sona nodded. They had a lot to talk about, and even though Sona was always a bit reserved, she always had time for her friends. In between their chat, Rias decided to tease her friend a bit. You know, Sona, she began, gaining the president's attention, it's been a hassle dealing with my hundreds of fans lately. Rias gave a long-suffering sigh as if it was such a pain to her. Ah, the burdens of being the most beautiful girl in the school. She sang, giving her friend a mischievous grin. Rias was indeed the most popular girl in the school, with Akino a close second. Sona placed third in the fan-made list. Even though Sona cared little about things like popularity, Rias loved to rub it in her face that she was the more popular of the two. They both knew it was harmless ribbing, but Rias liked riling up her friend. However, when she saw the smirk on Sona's lips, she grew wary. That must be hard. The president began, eyes glinting with mirth. I have it a lot easier. I have only one fan, but he is the most devoted in the world. He more than makes up for my lack of quantity, with quality. She pushed up her glasses with her finger, satisfied in her victory. Her face was as calm as ever, but there was a slight tinge of pink on her cheeks. Rias got the message, loud and clear. TCH. She pouted. Rias knew that Sona was talking about her fiancé. And she was right. With how much that guy was utterly besotted with Sona, the Citri really had the best fan in the world. Rias herself would prefer someone like that over her legion of shallow fans. But Sona wasn't done. Here, let me show you my fan mail. She then bent downwards and retrieved an absolutely massive box of letters and postcards. These were all sent by my intended. Sona smiled happily and got a few letters out to show Rias. Sona-chan is best girl, believe it. I love Sona-chan more than ramen. East or west, Sona is the best. Let's get married now. Humph. Rias crossed her hands and grumbled, having lost their verbal spar. Alright, I get it. Geez. Saji, who had heard all this, was irritated and could not refrain from cutting in. Wait, Kaisho has a fan? Who is he? Akino blinked at this. Sona, you haven't told your pawn yet? Sona sighed and shook her head. He's new, and the subject didn't come up. Saji was getting impatient. Who the hell is that guy? He yelled before getting whacked in the head by Momo. Sona rubbed her forehead. He's my fiancé, Naruto Phoenix. After hearing this, Saji grew a defeated look in his eyes. Kaisho is engaged. He whispered to himself, unable to believe it. His eyes then gained determination. Aha! It's probably an arranged marriage, isn't it? Don't worry, Kaisho. I shall break your engagement and free you from the clutches of your political marriage. Saji went off into a rant about how Kaisho would fall in love with him when he freed her from her evil fiancé, when said woman harshly pinched his ear, causing him to squeal in pain. Oh, I'm sorry, Kaisho. Idiot. Sona huffed but then looked away, acting uncharacteristically shy. Why would I break my engagement when I want to marry him? She tried to sound stern, but she was blushing so much that it just seemed adorable. Just as Saji was about to retort, a golden magic circle flared up in the middle of the room. Everyone from Sona's peerage straightened up, and Sona composed herself and returned to her seat. The light from the magic circle died down and revealed 4 people. 1 blonde boy, 2 girls with cat ears and 1 blonde girl. However, before anyone could even get a word in, the blonde boy spoke. Sona-chan. The blonde boy absolutely blurred forward, leapt across the desk and glommed the girl tightly. I missed you so much, you know? He grinned happily and hugged his fiancée closer to himself, uncaring of the looks he was receiving. Sona had predicted this ever since she saw his magic circle, so she simply returned his embrace and snuggled into his arms. I missed you too, Naruto. In her happiness of seeing him, Sona had forgotten that they were not alone. The pair were broken out of their reunion by a cough, courtesy of Rias. Oi, you two! Get a room! Sona snapped out of her pleasant trance and started blushing madly. Everyone had seen her in such a state. How improper! She squeaked and withdrew herself from Naruto's arms, pointing an accusing finger at him. Naruto, what have I told you about public decorum? She glared at him, though her face looked like a beetroot with her hair and blush. Naruto grinned and scratched the back of his head, not ashamed in the slightest. Hee, I missed you so much that I didn't care who saw us, you know? He then sat down in Sona's chair, taking her with him as he plopped her onto his lap. And you look gorgeous as always, sweetie. He gently pecked her forehead, partly to tease her and partly because he missed her. Awawawa. Sona's eyes started swirling with embarrassment, and she buried her face in the crook of Naruto's neck to hide herself from the room. The tender embrace embarrassed her even further, and steam started pouring out from her ears. Naruto just laughed and wrapped her tighter in his arms. I'll stop teasing you once you stop giving such cute reactions, Sona-chan. Naruto was a prankster by blood, so turning his normally cold and stoic fiancé into a stuttering mess was something of a victory for him. Kaicho is blushing. Strict Kaicho is blushing and getting all embarrassed. Saji's soul had left his body. The scene in front of him was such a huge culture shock to him. Who the hell was that guy, having such an effect on the calm and collected president? She is always like that with Naruto-sama, Naya. A voice piped up next to him, and Saji turned to see a woman with black hair and black cat ears. I'm Kuroka, Naruto-sama's bishop. Nice to meet you. The now named Kuroka extended her hand, which Saji gingerly shook. Saji was about to inquire further when Tsubaki cut in. Hello, Naruto-sama. I hope you have been well. I'm doing great, thanks, Tsubaki-chan. Naruto replied boisterously, making the queen nod with a smile. He then looked across the room, only to see Rias and Akino. Oh, hey there, Tomato, Akino-chan, didn't see you there. He waved happily, earning a twitching eye from Rias. Why do you always call me Tomato, Naruto? You even call Akino by name. You shouldn't refer to the most beautiful devil in such a crude manner, alright? Rias purred and batted her eyes at him, hoping for a reaction. She was miffed that Naruto never reacted to her beauty and always called her tomato. She didn't much like being teased like this. Naruto's sweat dropped. Are you okay, Rias? You seem full of yourself, you know? Naruto said, then cuddled Sona closer to his chest. Because the most beautiful devil is clearly Sona-chan. Meep. Sona jumped a bit at the compliment. She was just about to recover from her earlier embarrassment, but now her brain had melted again. Oni-sama. Behave. A high-pitched voice cut in, belonging to the blonde girl. She was wearing a regal pink dress, and her hair was in drills. But Ravel-chan. Oni-sama. Ravel stomped her foot in irritation, crossing her arms angrily at him. Naruto grumbled a bit at her telling voice, then got up from his chair, taking Sona with him. He turned around and placed Sona on her seat, who was practically glowing by now while glaring at him. Looking at her now, Naruto felt a little guilty. Maybe he had teased her a bit too much. He gave Sona some time to cool down and then spoke. I'm sorry for teasing you so much, Sona. I just missed you a lot, you know? He was genuinely apologetic, which made Sona's glare soften a bit. She sighed for the 100th time and pushed up her glasses. It's okay, I forgive you. I'm happy to see you again. She looked away and shyly tucked a strand of her hair behind her ear. And just like that, Naruto was done for. You're the best, Sona-chan. I love you. And Naruto. Sona hissed, although she had a very prominent smile on her face. Not in public. Ah, okay. Naruto dragged his feet back to where his peerage was with a crestfallen look on his face. Sona had to resist going there and cheering him up, as she knew it was just another prank of his. One that had worked too many times to be funny anymore. Naruto then took a seat on one of the couches, right next to the white-haired catgirl. He turned to her and spoke with teary eyes, Chiron-chan, heal me. Sona-chan has rejected me. He dramatically sobbed as he hugged the white-haired girl tightly. The rest of the room just looked on dumbly. So fluffy. I'm recharging. He softly patted her head, making the tiny girl purr in contentment. Oni-chan, you're being ridiculous. Chiron deadpanned while trying not to fall asleep. His head pats were out of this world, and her eyes were already drooping. Naruto recoiled as if he were struck in the face. Even Chiron-chan, he whispered sadly, eyes watering. His antics were cut off by Sona. Naruto, why are you being so difficult today? Sona could feel the migraine setting in. Yes, she loved him a lot, but there was no denying that her fiancé could be a handful. Before Naruto could go off into another speech, an irritated Saji stood in front of him. How the hell is Kaicho in love with a whiny brat like you? He glared at Naruto in disgust. She deserves better. The entire room went silent, and Saji knew then that he had made a terrible mistake. Naruto's expression had changed entirely. He simply wore a slight smile that didn't reach his eyes. Saji much preferred the whiny Naruto to this one. Luckily, he was saved by his mistress. Naruto, no. He may be crude, but he is a member of my peerage. She knew that Saji was out of line, but he was new and didn't know about the relationship she shared with Naruto. Don't worry, Sona. I'll just have a talk with him, you know? Naruto's voice was eerily calm, and Saji was not looking forward to this talk. Sona nodded in approval, as Naruto beckoned him outside. He didn't want to speak alone with a mysterious character. But then Saji steeled himself. This was all for the welfare of Kaicho, and he would do anything for her. It's not like talking to Naruto could be so bad, would it? Naruto sounded like a really positive person, who was overall very friendly. It's not like Naruto had some mysterious power which would sway people with merely his words, right? What's the worst that could happen? Please let me be a groomsman at your wedding. Sona's eyes widened comically as she looked at Saji, whose head was bowed in a 90-degree salute. She then looked at Naruto, who merely winked cheekily at her. She rubbed her temples and nodded in realization. Whenever Naruto had his talks with someone, they always ended up on his side and unendingly devoted to him. Just another thing to love, she supposed. After the spectacle was over, Saji went up to Naruto with stars in his eyes. Boss! He shouted, making the students flinch at his volume. I heard that many high-class devils have harems. Do you as well? Naruto looked positively affronted at this. What the hell? Of course not. He then turned to Sona and gave her a flirty wink, making her blush prettily. Sona-chan is the only woman for me, believe it. Said woman looked away with a red face to avoid the knowing stares of most of the room. I idiot. Saying such a thing out loud, she shyly tucked a lock of her hair behind her ear. Naruto deadpanned and pointed a finger at the blushing heiress. See that, Saji? See how cute she is? What woman would be able to even come close to my adorable Sona-chan? He gushed madly, firing off compliment after compliment to his flustered love. Poof. Sona buried her face in her hands, too embarrassed to even reprimand him for such unseemly behavior. Steam was pouring out of her ears as she desperately tried to hide herself in a corner. Lucky little Rias grumbled with twitching eyes, clenching her fists. If there was a common opinion among the new generation of female devils, it was that Sona really lucked out. She managed to snag the one person who was very kind, handsome, of reputed lineage, extremely powerful, had eyes only for her, and was extremely loyal to her. Half of the devils were jealous because they liked Naruto and wanted him for themselves, and the other half simply because they wanted what Sona had. Now, looking at Naruto fawning over his easily embarrassed fiancée, Rias could only wonder when she would find someone like that. Silence. The ballroom was in total silence after what they'd just heard. It was the day of the Young Devil Gathering, which included Rias, Sona, Naruto, and Saror Bale, among others. They had each introduced themselves, ending with the Citri heiress. She had declared her dream of opening a raiding game school accessible to all devils, which is why the room was so silent. But in a room full of prideful devils, even silence did not last long. Ha! What a childish dream! A devil snorted from his table, prompting laughter from the audience. This generation is truly naive. Go home and play with your dolls, little girl. Sona heard the taunts and jeers and clenched her fists to quell the sadness and frustration she was feeling. She knew that her dream was ambitious, but she did not expect such vehement ridicule. What was wrong in wanting the common devil folk to have education on raiding games? She didn't think there was any problem, but the devils present clearly did. As much as she wanted to, Sona could not rebuke the people taunting her. They all were from prominent pillar houses, each of whom could make her life very difficult if they so chose. Sona was smart. She knew that she just had to ignore them and work towards her goal. Sona saw that her sister, Seraphal, was looking at her sympathetically. However, the Satan said nothing. Sona could understand why. Seraphal had to remain impartial at all costs, after all. Sona's peerage glanced at their mistress in worry. They most certainly did not enjoy seeing their benefactor being humiliated and bullied in such a fashion. Saji gritted his teeth and was just about to yell out at the devils, when he was suddenly interrupted. Oya? What's this? The taunts and jeers stopped as the room looked at Naruto, who had spoken. However, the blonde's appearance was different. His usually electric blue eyes, which were as bright as the ocean, were now crimson in color with a slitted pupil. He was smiling coldly, and some people would have sworn that they saw fangs. You losers weren't just taunting Sona-chan, were you? Naruto grinned, making his fangs more visible. Because that would be bad, wouldn't it? If someone was, say, taunting my fiancé's dream, whom I love very much, I would just have to defend her honor in the arena, wouldn't I? Those who were bullying Sona earlier gulped at the blonde's words. Even though they were much older than Naruto, they weren't too sure of their chances against him. Naruto's raiding game battles were a thing of legend. His pure golden flames coupled with his phoenix immortality made him a demon on the battlefield. There was a reason he was called the Golden Fox, after all. The sight of a titanic nine-tailed fox composed entirely of golden flames disintegrating the entire arena with one breath was not something one would easily forget. Also, let me just say this, Naruto continued, when we marry, Sona's dream will have the full support of the Phoenix clan. Said woman's eyes widened in surprise, and if any one of you tries to sabotage her, I will destroy you. I don't care what clan you come from. I will not tolerate anyone looking down on my future wife. Sona's heart filled with warmth and love at hearing these words. She knew that Naruto loved her, but the extents to which he went for her never ceased to amaze her. Standing up for her dreams in front of the entire underworld, telling off many high-ranking devils just to defend her? She was truly lucky to have such a man for her fiancé. No one spoke after Naruto. Everyone knew that the blonde was fiercely protective of his entire family, which included the Citri heiress as well. Naruto loved every one of his precious people dearly. One incident was during a raiding game with the Vapula heir. The boy had foolishly commented that Ravel would make a fine addition to his peerage after he defeated Naruto. He is still in a coma. Even on the political front, Naruto was practically untouchable. Already an ultimate-class devil and a clan heir in a society that respected power, Naruto had more pedigree than some of the lords themselves. With the old crone silenced, the MC announced the dance floor to be open. Naruto turned to his fiancée with a cheeky grin, extending his arm outwards. May I have this dance, milady? He bowed showily, earning a small giggle from Sona. When she grabbed his extended arm, He softly kissed the back of her palm, making her face gain a cute blush. Sona could feel the jealous gazes of many heiresses boring into her skull and decided to roll with it. He was hers, just like she was his. What was the harm in showing off a bit? Smirking at the jealous devils, she wrapped her arm around Naruto's, leaning into his shoulder. It would be my pleasure. Naruto had his arms wrapped around Sona's waist, and they were gently swaying to the song, lost in each other's company. Sona's head was tucked under Naruto's chin, and her own arms slung tightly behind his back. Many heiresses and heirs walked by the pair, hoping for a dance with either Naruto or Sona. They were fresh out of luck though. The two were utterly smitten with each other, and the rest of the room didn't even matter to them. Naruto looked down when he felt Sona poke his cheek. She glanced at him with a small, genuine smile on her face, one which was reserved only for those close to her. Thank you, Naruto, for defending me and standing up for me. The blonde returned her smile and pecked her on the forehead, prompting her to bury her blushing face in his chest. Always, Sona-chan. After all, you're stuck with me forever, you know? He wiggled his eyebrows, hoping to lighten the mood. Sona smirked at the joke, deciding to join in. I don't know how I will manage. Naruto laughed and pulled her closer, so that his nose was in her soft hair. Well, I'm not letting you go, so you'll have to find a way. I still don't know how Wani-sama let you live. She is very possessive of me, after all. Naruto gave her a knowing look. We just had a talk, nothing special, you know? Sona sighed and shook her head fondly as she was twirled around by her love. However quirky he might be, he was hers. And in the end, Sona was a devil. She was selfish. And she would never let anyone have what was hers. She was never going to let go. Naruto looked in the mirror with a smile on his face. Even though he had done this every morning for centuries, he still couldn't help but smile whenever he saw his reflection. Why? Because he had awesome fox ears now. They complemented his whiskers permanently, giving him a perfectly vulpine appearance. Naruto pulsed his chakra and smiled some more when he saw 9 golden foxtails pop out behind him. Along with his ears and whiskers, these tails signified his status as a true 9-tailed fox yokai. A Kyuubi. Naruto could sense Kurama laughing at him from the volcano the big fur ball was hibernating inside. But there was one advantage to his new appearance that superseded all others. It allowed him to meet and ultimately marry the love of his life. A Kyuubi could marry another Kyuubi without much hassle, because of stuffy noble nonsense he didn't care about. Not that being a human would have stopped him from being with Yasaka, but this way worked out best for everyone while keeping their images intact. Speaking of the wifey, Naruto left his room in search of his wife. He hadn't seen her in hours, so he missed her a lot. Some might call him clingy for wanting to be near his wife so much, but she liked it, and Naruto liked showering her with affection, so the haters could stuff it. Once someone who has been deprived of love their whole life finally finds it, they never let go. Naruto was wearing a blood orange yukata with a black obi. He hated those itchy formal clothes, so he opted for something simple. Yasaka-chan, Naruto called out while roaming the hallways, both his hands on his mouth to amplify the sound. Even though he was the king of yokai, Naruto could care less about manners. When he wanted to see his wife, he just shouted and made a racket until either she heard him, or someone told him where she was. He then spotted a Nikomata maid wandering around the halls, so he approached her to ask about Yasaka. Hey Shizu-chan, Naruto beckoned, causing the maid to eat in shock and look at him with slightly pink cheeks. Naruto, of course, completely missed it. Have you seen my wife? Naruto-sama. Shizu gasped in surprise and happiness, but then composed herself to answer the question. Yasaka-sama was signing some papers in her office, Naya. She clutched the tea tray in her hands, blushing prettily. Naruto-sama was talking to her. It was taking all of her energy to not faint right now. This encounter was going to be the gossip of the day in the maids' quarters. I see. Naruto scratched his cheek. Thanks a bunch, Shizu-chan. He grinned happily, gently patting the Nikomata on the head as he turned to leave. His grin widened when he heard the cute squeak that the maid let out. Adorable. It was too much fun to tease these youngsters. Shizu was just standing where she was, frozen in place. She could still feel the hand patting her head and the sheer comforting warmth it provided. It was through these small things that the servants knew that Naruto-sama cared deeply for them. Too bad he was too dense to see that most of the maids had crushes on him, herself included. However, they stood no chance unless they wanted to invite the wrath of the only other Kyuubi in Kyoto. Naruto-sama himself was renowned for his loyalty and honor, so he would never betray his wife. This very honor made them adore him more, leading to a paradox. Shizu sighed longingly and went about her duties with a slight smile on her face. Whatever the case may be, she was glad to be employed by such a kind and caring master. Yasaka Uzumaki, the queen of yokai, was signing papers in her office, humming merrily to herself. Dressed in an elegant golden kimono which only amplified her beauty, she looked every bit the queen she was. It was a relatively ordinary day, not leaving her with much work left. Just sign some paperwork, approve some new buildings, and deal with the council. The thought of the council caused her to groan in irritation, as much as her queenly grace would permit, anyway. Since the past few decades, the council had lost most of their power, and were a council in name only. That was precisely why their pointless prattling was so annoying. They were just old fools who could not stomach change. It was somewhat ironic, considering the council had a huge amount of influence on her when she was just settling into her reign. Do this, sign this, marry him, meet her, and other such drivel was common during her younger years. That all changed when she was of 20 years, and was being courted by her husband. An old Tengu councilman had made the mistake of suggesting a suitor for her when Naruto was present. That in itself was normal. It was the council's duty to suggest alliances for them. But the problem was the man's persistence to get her to marry his relative despite her repeated refusals. That was until Naruto had punched the Tengu through a wall. Literally. She had never seen Naruto look so angry before, and she would shamelessly admit that he looked very cool defending her like he had. Until he got even cooler when he uttered the most romantic words she had ever heard. If anyone tries to keep me from my woman, there won't be a council for her to oversee, believe it! Yasaka palmed her face with her hands, trying to quell her fierce blush. She squashed down a giddy giggle at the memory of her love standing up for her and protecting her. It never failed to bring a smile to her beautiful face. My woman, she whispered, her blush returning in full force. She should have been angry at Naruto for referring to her so crudely, but at that moment, she was shocked. He was acting so possessive towards her, and she did agree with the sentiment. She was his woman, just like he was her man after all. No harm in declaring it for the world to hear. Yasaka was so lost in her romantic dreams that she didn't see her husband sneak up on her. She typically remained on high alert for threats, but Naruto's aura was inherently comforting and caused people to let their guard down. And you didn't want to let down your guard in the presence of the prank king. Naruto grinned. Distracted wife, sneaky husband. Perfect opportunity. But still, Naruto had grown from his younger years. His pranks were no longer abrasive practical jokes that caused people to get mad at him. They were instead a source of good laughs. Besides, if his wife got mad at him, Naruto would have to sleep on the couch. The prank would have to be equal parts harmless and funny. There was only one way to go. Fu. He blew into her ear. Kia! Yasaka squeaked and jolted in place, covering her ticklish ears. She knew it was Naruto because no one else was immature enough to pull a stunt like this. She turned around and gave him her best glare, but she just looked adorable with the embarrassed flush on her face. What do you think you're doing? Wasn't me. Naruto retorted with total seriousness, pointing towards the door. It was him. Yasaka looked towards the door, only to regret it moments later. Fu. Hiya. She turned around to bop Naruto on top of the head, only to squeak in surprise when Naruto drew her into a tight embrace. Try as she might, Yasaka could not resist the comfort her husband's hugs provided. It was like relaxing under a kotatsu after a long day at work. Grumbling to herself, she reluctantly snuggled deeper into the hold. You're so mean, dear. You always make me so flustered. Her mild irritation at his prank was already forgotten in favor of relaxing into his warmth. Naruto chuckled and hugged her tighter. I take that as a compliment, Yasaka-chan. If I still can make you blush, that means the romance is still alive, you know? You're lucky there's no one else in here. Yasaka muttered, rubbing her head into his chest like a kitten. I ought not to behave so unprofessionally in front of our subjects. You're such a great queen, sweetie. The people are lucky to have you. Naruto kissed the top of her head, making her cheeks go pink. This queen demands recompense for disturbing her work, Yasaka declared haughtily, but the effect was minimized with her red face buried in his chest. Naruto gave a mock salute. Yes, my queen, this humble Kyuubi will coddle you at once. Naruto started petting Yasaka's fox ears, making her turn to putty under his gentle touch. Yasaka had told him that a Kyuubi woman's ears and tails were special to them, and that only completely trustworthy people were allowed to touch them. Naruto felt like the luckiest idiot on the face of the world right now. That's good, keep doing that, Yasaka purred in sheer contentment. She always enjoyed when her husband pampered her like this. Her work as a queen could get very stressful, but Naruto was always there to make her feel at ease. and she simply enjoyed being lavished in affection by the object of her own affections. Right at this moment, as she sat nestled in her man's lap, Yasaka felt safe. She felt cherished, she felt loved. And since they were yokai, she would continue to feel protected every day for thousands of years. As Naruto's healing hands softly stroked her ears, Yasaka gently drifted off to sleep. Her duties as queen and her professional act could wait. In Naruto's arms, she could let her guard down and be herself. A young vixen who was hopelessly in love with her soulmate, one she would spend the rest of her life cherishing. Naruto looked down at his wife, glad to see that she was sleeping peacefully while leaning her head on his chest. He stroked a bit of hair away from her face, grinning a bit when her nose twitched cutely with the gesture. She might be the yokai queen or the most sought-after woman in the world, but she was his wife. His and his alone. Hugging Yasaka just a bit tighter, Naruto marveled at how much he was obsessed with her. It might be his new QB nature at work, but he was highly possessive over his mate. Naruto swore that he would protect her with his life and would keep her happy and safe for centuries to come. "We want to buy Ko from you for $1 billion. Surzek's Lucifer said as he and Serafal were in Naruto's office. They were here to see if they could get some territory for Rias and Sona, both of whom had just turned 5. "I will respectfully have to decline that offer." Yasaka spoke in a silky voice, sitting in Saiza position with Naruto next to her. Even though Naruto was the king, Yasaka was the one who handled most of the negotiations. Asking Naruto to be diplomatic was like asking an atom bomb to please not explode. "We'll make it 3 billion. Really, money is no issue for us," Surzek pressed. He wanted this territory at any cost. Ria-tan had just gotten into anime, and imagine how much she would like him if he got her land in Japan. Fufufu. "Neither it is for us, Lucifer Dano," Yasaka retorted, a slight twitch on her brow. She didn't appreciate the insinuation that Kyoto was poor. Since Naruto had taken the reins, the kingdom was flourishing. Every single yokai lived under them, even the Nikomata had migrated from the underworld. They were very rich from regular tax collection. "We cannot allow the members of any other pantheon to enter Japan." Surzek was sweating. He looked to Serafal for help, wondering why the usually bubbly foreign affairs minister wasn't taking part in the negotiations. Truly enough, Serafal was looking at the king, Naruto, with slightly pink cheeks. "She's totally smitten, isn't she?" It was an open secret that Naruto had saved Serafal from an old devil faction attack, preventing her inevitable death. This was before Naruto had met Yasaka, and he was wandering the underworld. He had stumbled upon the devils attacking Serafal and jumped in without knowing who she even was. On being asked why a yokai would help a devil, Naruto's reply had them stumped. "What the hell's a devil? And who needs a reason to save a lady in trouble, you know?" Just like that, Serafal was done for. Naruto was the first man to help her without regard for her status, or wanting to get closer to her for her clan's power. Naruto merely saw a lady in need of saving, not caring about her beauty or prestige. Serafal had developed a crush on him ever since. It wasn't true love like Yasaka's, more like some admiration mixed with infatuation. One might ask, why was Serafal here then, causing a conflict of interest? Simple, she had thrown a massive tantrum to see Foxy-chan until Surzek had reluctantly brought her along. It was the only reason why Surzek wasn't using any underhanded tactics for negotiating. Naruto was a stand-up guy, and a good friend of his. He might want the territory, but he couldn't stick up his friend for that. Also, Serafal would murder him if he made Naruto mad. "Isn't there anything that we can offer?" Yasaka saw Serafal's look and gave the most minuscule smirk possible. She gently swayed 2 of her tails, and wrapped them around Naruto's waist, bringing him closer. "I'm afraid not. We yokai are rather possessive of what is ours." Her smirk widened just a bit when Serafal glared at her while gritting her teeth. Naruto, of course, missed it completely. He just grinned that Yasaka was embracing him, and wrapped his own arm around her shoulders. "You hear that, guys? The queen says no." His grin brightened when Yasaka gently nudged his shoulder, smiling coyly at him. Yasaka never behaved like this in public, but Naruto was sure as hell not going to complain. After the 2 Satans left, Yasaka again found herself in Naruto's lap. She was used to this behavior, so she merely eased into the hold, humming happily at the closeness. She swayed her feet from side to side, her kimono trailing behind her. Yasaka giggled. "This feels like I'm on a swing." She swayed her feet a little faster. Naruto was much taller and bigger than her, so her legs would dangle off the ground whenever she sat in his lap. "Would you like to go on a swing, Yasaka-chan?" Naruto tilted his head in confusion. Hee. Yasaka was amazed at her husband's cuteness. How he could be so handsome and adorable at the same time, she'd never know. He was so pure and innocent, looking at her all confusedly and asking to go on a swing. Oh, how I love this charming fool of a man! Yasaka's heart was going crazy in her chest, overwhelmed by her adoration for her husband. No. Yasaka shook her head, leaning back against Naruto's chest. I much prefer the seat I am in now. Naruto gained a wicked smirk. Oh, you do, huh? You minx! With that, Naruto started tickling his wife, making her clutch her sides in laughter. She was gasping and begging for a timeout, but Naruto grinned. There were no timeouts in a tickle war. Now Naruto! Stop! No! And the room rang with the melodious laughter of a couple madly in love, causing even the gods to envy their bond. Naruto did make good on his word later and took Yasaka to the park later so she'd get to ride the swing. Only this time, they weren't alone. Papa! Push the swing faster! Konoha squealed in glee, as she was pushed on the swing by her papa. Naruto laughed at the demand, pushing his daughter even higher. Of course, he made sure not to push her so far that she'd fall. Konoha Uzumaki was his cute little daughter of 9 years, a full kyuubi like both of her parents. She wore a golden kimono like Yasaka did, and she had inherited Naruto's faint whisker marks, making her look a lot like a fox kit. This is embarrassing, Yasaka muttered from beside him, seated on her own swing. How mortifying! The yokai queen was being pushed on a swing like some child. But when Konoha had pleaded with those big, cute eyes of hers to have Papa push us both, Yasaka stood no chance. Click. Ah man, this is awesome! Naruto grinned, a camera in his hands. Yasaka looked almost as adorable as Konoha did, if not more. Her dainty hands were holding on to the swing rope for dear life, kimono flapping in the wind. She was giving out absolutely adorable eeps and kayas every time Naruto increased her swing speed. I will have words with you, wa! Yasaka's threat was cut off with a squeal, as Naruto pushed her swing faster. Konoha giggled at the sight. Her own swing was at a much more sedate pace. Mama is so silly! Naruto joined right in. Isn't she? Papa, catch me! Konoha suddenly jumped from her swing, and Naruto was instantly there to make sure she was unharmed. Once in her father's arms, Konoha cheered and wrapped her arms around his neck. Yay! Again! Naruto patted her ears, making them twitch cutely. Now Konoha-chan, that wasn't very safe, you know? You should never do that again, he admonished her. Kids were very adventurous, especially Naruto Uzumaki's daughter. Best to drill safety into her head right now. Konoha's ears drooped in sadness. I'm sorry, Papa. Don't be mad at me. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, her bottom lip quivering. She always hated disappointing her parents, and got very sad when they were. Critical hit. Burk. Naruto immediately hugged her tighter, determined to cheer his daughter up. I'm not mad, sweetie. Just want to make sure my little princess is safe, you know? He said earnestly, hoping to convince her. Konoha sniffled. Really? You're not mad? I could never be mad at you, princess. Konoha's face bloomed into a great big smile, her sadness forgotten. Papa, you're the best. Naruto sheepishly scratched the back of his head. Hee, believe it. You two are just so precious. Yasaka cooed from her swing, which was just about to stop. She extended her feet towards the ground, trying to stop the swing using her tiptoes. And then her feet flailed a bit, trying to find purchase. Finally, she managed to get off the swing. Yasaka stretched her arms above her head as the swing had made her back stiff. Naruto shot her a thumbs up. Super cute. Konoha gave her own mini thumbs up. Mama is cool. Yasaka's cheeks pinked. A couple of sweethearts, aren't you? Yasaka could only stand so much of this cuteness. Konoha was now sitting on Naruto's shoulders, looking like a smaller version of him. Their daughter was idly fluffing up Naruto's ears, making them twitch just so. Naruto held out a hand which Yasaka gladly took. The family walked off into a sunset. The happy memories of the day burned into their minds. Naruto jerked upright in his bed when he felt a very familiar seal get triggered. It was the necklace he had given to his wife, which had many seals and wards for her safety. This meant only one thing. Yasaka was under attack. Hiration. Within the next second, he was gone. Naruto appeared in a flash, instantly taking stock of the situation. 4 hostiles, human. Powerful sacred gears. Yasaka was in the middle of their circle, taking attacks from every direction. She was holding her own fairly well, as she wasn't a kyuubi for nothing. But Naruto could see her beginning to struggle. That could only mean Longinus. Powerful ones at that. There was also some kind of hypnosis magic at play, but his necklace shattered it before it could infect Yasaka in the slightest. Naruto didn't care who these people were. He didn't care about their motives or whether they were wronged by the world somehow. The earlier Naruto would have. The current Naruto, however, only saw hostile people attacking his wife. They were already dead. Chow Chow glared hatefully at the monster who had dismantled his entire team in mere seconds. It was all going according to plan. Kidnap the fox woman, control her, and use her power to summon Great Red. But this yokai. Infuriating. The only thing he could do was glare at the ground, as his body was too broken to do much else. Naruto had already paralyzed 3 of the attackers, while the others had died quickly. He ignored them completely and turned to Yasaka. His wife looked fine if a bit scuffed. Her regal kimono was torn in a few places, but she was otherwise unharmed. Naruto's eyes turned crimson with rage as he turned to the downed human. He hadn't even bothered to ask them their names. It was not worth it. The thought of his wife, his woman, being attacked by ants like these made his blood boil. Vile, dark red Biju chakra wafted from his body, and he wanted nothing more than to rip them to shreds. He was snapped out of his thoughts when Yasaka's slender arms wrapped around him. "I'm alright, love. I'm alright." She knew just what to say to calm him down, as Naruto's furious temper abated somewhat at knowing Yasaka was safe. Naruto returned the embrace, gently kissing Yasaka on the forehead. Her blush was left ignored as she buried her face into Naruto's chest. Even if she was a strong yokai, she felt secure at the fact that her husband had leapt into action to protect her. It was comforting to know that your mate always had your back, and would never abandon you. He swayed in place with his wife in his arms, just relishing that she was here and uninjured. If he had lost her, the world would have burned. But still, they are going to die. The finality with which he said those words sent shivers down the hero faction's spines. Chow Chow, George, and Heracles were the only ones left alive, but they were all paralyzed. Naruto then grinned menacingly. It was not reassuring in the slightest. This is the perfect opportunity to test out my theory. He stepped towards them, his hand glowing blindingly bright gold. I wonder if Kunichan would like a sacred gear for her birthday? Papa. Yes, Kuna dear? You know I'm 18 now, right? Well, there's this boy. Oh ho? Oh ho ho? Oh ho 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 ho. Ho 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 ho. Dad, you're being weird. PSSHHH, I'm not. So, who's this guy? He's a Nekishu, and he's really strong and nice. You know. Kurokane's younger brother. I see. HAA, time to get out the old stick and beat some sense into the little brat, I guess. Daddy, no. The true Longinus is not a baseball bat to beat boys with. But he needs to treat my little girl right, you know. Absolutely not. You always do this every time I get a boyfriend. I've not chased every boyfriend of yours with the spear, have I? You have. Imagine how terrified they get when they see a furious QB running after them with the true Longinus. That's why I never bring them home anymore. Why am I just now hearing about these boyfriends? Don't worry, honey, I knew and vetted them all. They were all nice kids, and so is this one. Yasaka too. Stop being dramatic, love. How about I make you some ramen? Ramen isn't enough to convince me, you know? I'll feed it to you myself. Sold. Let's go. Eep. Dear, not a bridal carry. It's a princess carry, fit for my queen. Oh, you romantic you. They're so weird. Still, if he doesn't treat me like Papa treats Mama, I'm going to break up with him. Ha, it's so late. When will she be home? Naruto wondered while looking pensively out of the window. Grafia had gone out drinking with the other girls for a girls' night. While Naruto always wanted his wife to spend time with her friends, it didn't change the fact that he already missed her a lot. It was also getting pretty late in the night, and he was growing concerned. Even though Grafia was the strongest person in Konoha after himself and Sasuke, a husband's worries seldom seek logic. Should I go and pick her up? Naruto got up to get dressed, but stopped when an overwhelming sense of dread overcame him. Naruto! Give the Mednin program more funds, damn it! Hick Intelligence also needs funds, Naruto. On second thought, I don't want to deal with a drunk Sakura and Ino pestering me for more funds to their departments. Naruto shuddered at the thought. Those two women were violent enough sober. Best to not be seen by them. Naruto bounced uneasily on his feet. Still, it's almost midnight. Is she doing all right? But how can I check without running into those damn debt collectors? What are you? Huh? Kurama's sudden question stumped him. What do you mean by that? I'm Naruto. A faint sound of Kurama slamming his head into some metal bars rung through Naruto's brain. Idiot! What is your job? I'm the best Hokage ever, believe it! Naruto gave his signature pose, complete with a wide grin. What is the Hokage? Kurama was fast losing patience. He was looking like a salaryman who had been forced to do a few days of non-stop work without overtime. Kurama didn't know where these words entered into his vocabulary from, but he understood the feeling very well. Naruto palmed his chin with his hand. The Hokage is the strongest shinobi, chosen by the village. Konoha is my family, will of fire, king chess piece, bonds, friendship, ending the cycle of hatred, understanding among the people. He trailed off, unable to think of more examples. Aside from summarizing the past 1,000 years in one sentence, what was the first thing you said? The strongest shinobi, Naruto declared triumphantly, only for his eyes to widen. Oh, I am a shinobi, you know? I could just check on FIA from afar. He cheered, amazed at his own discovery. Eyes deader than the abyss of chaos, Kurama could merely give a few defeated chuckles at the absolutely monumental incarnation of stupidity that was Naruto. I don't know what a bonus is, but I need one. Just as Naruto was prepared to head off to check on Grafia, the doorbell rang. Eyes lighting up in glee, he ran to the door, excited to greet his wife. Naruto opened the door with full force, as he had already sensed his wife outside. Welcome home, FIA. What is this adorable sight? His eyes shot wide open as he trailed off, speechless at what he saw. His beautiful wife, Grafia, was indeed at the door, and she was just fine. But that was not the focus here. Grafia was wearing a fluffy orange muffler around her neck, which came up to her nose and made her look impossibly cuddly. Her cheeks were dusted dark red, from a mix of cold and wine. She was clearly tipsy and wobbling slightly. Her clothes were relatively simple blue jeans and a black cardigan, which made her look even cuter with her muffler and blush. To complete the cuteness, she was carrying a bottle of wine, clutching it tightly to herself. Grafia was giving small hiccups from time to time, since Naruto was too dumbfounded to move. Yo, Naruto! Dropping off your wife! Sakura exclaimed from beside Grafia, looking sober herself. Her medical jutsus were good at that. See you, Tomo. Who am I kidding? He isn't even looking at my direction. Sakura muttered, seeing as Naruto hadn't even acknowledged her presence. The Hokage was too mesmerized by the First Lady to care about anything else. With another goodbye, Sakura left for her own house. Back with the couple, Naruto had managed to snap out of his cuteness-induced daze. He immediately wrapped his arms around his wife's shoulder, supporting her as she walked in. Let's get you inside, okay? It's cold outside. Grafia mumbled and nodded slightly, snuggling into his side looking for warmth. Haiku. She hiccuped and immediately covered her mouth, but the damage was done. Cute. Once they were inside the living room, Naruto gently seated Grafia on the couch. As he moved to sit on another sofa, he felt his wife holding on to his sleeve. FIA-chan? Grafia looked at him, her silver eyes gleaming with so much love and adoration. Sit with me. She gave him no room to argue, and pulled him down on her couch. She then proceeded to climb over Naruto like a kitten. Grafia snuggled into Naruto's bigger frame, almost as if she was burrowing into it. Mine. Way. Naruto's jaw dropped in shock. His wife was acting so clingy and assertive. He loved it. Naruto didn't know what was happening, but far be it from him to complain. So, the Hokage settled for simply wrapping his beloved wife in a tender embrace, glad to be enjoying this time with her. Naruto Shama Grafia raised her head, which brought her face to face with Naruto. Since she was much shorter than Naruto,